Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Open Mid Leaguecast, episode 11. We're going to be talking about everything related to the playoffs for NA Academy and LCS. Then we're going to get into the TSM Doublelift and NA Culture. But before that, we're going to get into patch 10.8. So we'll start with that. The patch has been out for a little over a week now. They did some buffs and some nerfs to notable champions such as Philios, Master Yi, Senna. Then they buffed champions like Orianna, Ryze, Xayah, Tristana, Soraka. So when it comes to the Aphelios nerf, it's pretty much just like nerfing his early game, but he's still going to be like a late game monster, I've seen.
I would tend to agree. Honestly, his pro play presence has started to go down a little bit. People preferring the Varus lately and the Xayah Rakan over the Philios. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you do need to protect him more than other AD carries. He does have CC, but it's not very consistent, of course. And I think that the thing is, like, he does a lot, right? Like, we saw him in the entirety of the playoffs, and for some people, he was doing work, like, for Bang. And then in other games, completely useless, like in the TSM series, and when TSM was playing it. So I think these nerfs are a little bit deserved. Probably a little bit more. How do I say it? A little bit worse in solo queue. I think in pro play here is already starting to move out.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely going to target solo queue more. So like his early E game's not going to be as dominant as it was before, but you know, if you target him early and then you guys somehow don't manage to close the game and he hits like 2-3 items, it's going to be a lot harder because he's scaled.
Yeah, it's the same thing. With a lot of, I think Aphelios' thing is that he just does a lot more damage than other AD carries. So nerfing his damage is really good, but also not great for AD carries in general. When the only reason people think Aphelios is OP is because he actually does damage. Even if it's a little too much.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of like what his kit is that he just does a lot of damage. So
yeah, so
it's just how they design the champion.
I think they're kind of moving in the wrong direction with the ADC changes that happened this past patch. Nerfing Kalista, nerfing Varus. I'm totally fine with nerfing Senna, by the way. It's not balanced what Senna does. For a team, and it's pretty good that they're nerfing her. I agree. But the Kalista and the Varus changes they're not that bad, right? They're minimal changes, I think, to a little bit of their utility and survivability. But the buffs to the other AD carries aren't, I would say, enough, right?
Yeah, they're like very small buffs. So like Ashe, she got more attack speed on her Q, bonus attack speed, which is going to be good at rank 5 because it's 20 extra bonus to attack speed, which is really, really nice and pretty noticeable. And then when it came to Xayah, it went from 10% less damage per feather to now it's 5% less damage per feather. So she'll do
a 50% increase.
Yeah, pretty much. And she'll be doing more damage with the E, which is like her main damage. So, it's not terrible, but like it's not like where they should be going.
Changing.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think the big problem for most ADC is that they are really squishy in the mid game. I think a lot of people have shown examples of like where your mid laner is say level 12 and you're level 9. And the amount of gold, the difference between 12 and 9 is just too massive in regards to like base stats, right? So I think any mid laner like at level 12 can probably beat a AD carry at level 9. I think that's why it feels so bad playing ADC lately, because it feels like you can't do anything until you get to like maybe say 13, where like the level differential doesn't matter as much. And I guess these buffs do help, early games and things like this, but I don't think it's enough for most of the AD carries that they changed.
Yeah.
It's nice, but still, I don't think it's enough. The Tristana change is basically non-existent because at level 9 you already you already one shot an enemy ADC anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really overkill.
Yeah. Maybe it'll bring up like solo lane trust again, but I doubt it.
I don't think that's what they want though. I don't think they want solo lane Triss to be a thing. I think they want her in bot lane, right?
Yeah. They just gave her like more damage because they wanted to.
Yeah, it feels weird how they are bouncing around AD carries for a while now. And I think they're just not sure what to do at this point. Because they don't want to give base stats back. Because as soon as you start giving base stats back, you go back to season 7 where you rush Ardent, right?
True.
For your ADC. And I don't think people want to do that. Or I don't think Riot wants that because that kind of playstyle wasn't as fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, farm up 25 minutes and then fight. It's not as fun as what we have right now.
Agreed.
I think another nerf that happened that was really good. Set. Jesus Christ, dude. This champion needed nerfs.
Yeah, they nerfed his W damage, which obviously nerfs top set, but also nerfs support set in a way because, you know, you would just do 210 base damage as a fucking support, you know?
Yeah.
So, makes sense. I think this champion is just super duper good, but I think now he's a little bit more balanced. But still, like the things that he can do in like a fight and like disrupt and things like that, like I think he's just super duper good. So
They might need to tune down the damage his ult does when the target is tanky. I think that is kind of oppressive in a team fight.
yeah.
I mean, we saw multiple times this past playoffs like set ulting like an Ornn into your ADC, and then your ADC is at half HP.
And then he gets W'd and then he dies.
Yeah, and then he gets W'd and then he dies, right? Yeah, it's not balanced. It's not balanced.
True.
I think that's what they probably need to hit. I get the W base damage. I think nerfing his damage is like the biggest thing. But the problem is once you nerf his damage too much, he's kind of useless, right?
Yeah. So they don't want to make him completely dog yet.
Yeah, of course. I feel like a lot of the other buffs. I saw the Orianna buffs and the Ryze buffs, and I thought these are pretty.
I think they're placebo buffs for now.
Yeah, they're essentially placebo buffs. I mean, Orianna already getting played a little bit into like Azir, into like Victor. Both of them solid matchups for her. She should come back in the meta with those champions. Ryze, the buffs are minimal but good. The Q base movement speed buff is solid for his kiting, especially around champions like Azir or Victor or Orianna, because he really needs to just like quick combo and run out before he takes a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
So they're healthy buffs to two champions that are answers to the current played champions, and I think they're okay buffs. They might get people to play it more. That's about it. Don't think it'll give too much more power though.
Yeah, I think people are gonna try Ryze out more. I haven't seen Ryze like at all in my solo queue games, but that's just me. But I think that these are good buffs.
I think his solo queue problem is the same as always, where like everybody just camps the fuck out of him early, and then if you don't win in like 20 minutes, he just beats your team because he hits 2 items.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing as always with Ryze. He's not also like he doesn't have a lot of good lane matchups at the moment, so that's probably a problem too. And the last thing probably noticeable to talk about is Master Yi getting a nerf, maybe stopping funnel a little bit more.
I still see it sometimes, and even in like Afromoo stream, I think it was done. But yeah, people are still playing funnel, and it's kind of crazy because they're clearly just like boosting these accounts or whatever.
Honestly, that's what it is. And God, it's so annoying to play against funnel.
It's actually just like this is not like a strat that you and like your normal duo friend do. It's like a strat that boosting does, like people that boost do. So I don't know if Riot should like start targeting them and be like, yo, if you do this, you're gonna like get banned or some shit. Cause like this isn't like a normal strategy like at all within the game. Like at this point, it's not, because they've nerfed it so many times that like if you're still doing it, you're obviously like trying to like boost your account or some shit. And I hate it when it's on my team because the entire game is focused around them, and then if they fuck up, the game's over.
Yeah, they warped the game, and there's these Master Yi nerfs and the nerfs to funnel directly, where, before the minion gold penalty was at 14 minutes, it got removed. So like, you would start earning complete money from your camps at 14. Now they made it 20, so that's a whole 6 minutes longer. Basically, it's just trying to curve funnel, but I think the damage gets done pretty quickly in funnel games.
Mm-hmm.
Usually like 10 minutes. They've got like way more CS than anyone else in the game, way more gold, and at that point they just need ultis to kind of take over. It's honestly pretty annoying. I'm glad they keep nerfing it, but I don't know if there's a way to get rid of it entirely without warping some mechanics for the jungle, and that could impact jungle itself.
Yeah. We're at a point where it's like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah, I have no idea either. So, I mean, speaking of jungle, they had the XP changes this patch too. I think it's... They're a little bit better, but I don't think it's still enough for junglers, at least. Junglers are always going to complain about how many levels down they are, even the more and more they increase it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I've started to notice it more, where your jungler is impactful for, say, like maybe 15 minutes of the game, and then after that they are there to tank some damage. Honestly, it's I mean, certain junglers have started to come back, like Graves, who kind of change that mentality, but it still feels really bad to play any jungler that's not Graves or Karthus and be impactful post like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent, because there's some other like solo queue junglers I've seen that still do well on like other champions, like Shyvana. That fucking champion is really annoying.
Yeah, that I completely. I have not been playing a lot of solo queue lately.
Yeah.
One of the solo queue games I did play had a Shyvana, and it was so annoying to play against.
AP Shyvana's annoying, and then it's like there's other players that build like attack speed tanky Shyvana, and I'm like, they still do a shit ton of damage, and I'm like, I don't know what to fucking do.
I know. It's really annoying.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think jungle in general is just like in a spot where they don't want it to be where they're even with solo laners, but they also don't want them to be on par with like supports, So
yeah.
Them doing the whole, XP change at level 9 plus is just for them to be like, you can somewhat stay relevant within the game at a certain point still.
But honestly, it's still kind of hard to hit level 9,
Yeah.
Because, taking an example from some of the pro games we saw this weekend, or the past few weeks, there's one game where, Centaurin's like level 9, level 10, and like Dardoch's like 7. And it's like, geez, how? And it was pretty late into the game, like 15, 16 minutes, and I'm like, how is he not level 9 at this point?
Too busy sitting in Bjergsen's lane.
Honestly, it was pretty rough on it to watch. I can understand. Like, I understand how junglers are frustrated with impact in games. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't do anything early, then you don't do anything at all.
True.
And I can see where people are frustrated with that. Because they think they should have impact at all points in the game.
Yeah. I agree with that. That, like, your role should feel impactful at all points in the game, but some roles it's just how the roles are. It's like, ADs, they can't do shit without their support early. So at a certain point, once they hit item spikes, then the ADs can do stuff. But, it's the same thing with jungle. Like, jungle is going to be super useful early, but then at a certain point, they're going to be just a smite bot to secure objectives, So,
yeah.
Riot's just trying to still figure out how to balance the game where it's not like actually jungle diff every game sort of thing.
Yeah. Mid lane's fun. I'm still having fun. I'm impacting games. I
True.
just follow my jungler around,
Oh yeah.
and then he's my dog, and he gives me blue buff.
Mm-hmm. As long as he's not inting, I will follow my jungler.
Yeah, as long as he's not inting. God, man, there's some inting junglers out there. I had a Lee Sin though who hard carried like 14-0. I was sitting there like, I'm getting carried. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. I'm a Zir. I'm chilling. I'm scaling. He'll be useless in 5 minutes, but then I'll be useful.
Really do be like that.
It really do be like that. I think that's enough for the patch at the moment. Nothing really else was big on it, unless there was anything you wanted to take a look at specifically.
I mean, I think the Soraka change is a little toxic, not gonna lie. I'm not sure if it'll come into pro play. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I haven't seen a lot of it in solo queue. I saw it one game, and I was just like, this shit is fucking dumb because she has more mana, and the queue costs less mana, and I don't want to play against this shit.
Was it support?
Yeah, it was support, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in solo lanes yet, so that could change very soon.
I think the damage percentage nerfs on minions.
I think that was like
kind of killed it.
The nail in the coffin for solo lane, but support Soraka, like we saw Mickey all of the finals just playing heal shield support, so
Janna Lulu, right? He played.
Yeah, he literally played Janna Lulu, so
honestly, that kind of worried me a little bit. Not worried. I was actually excited to see that because honestly, I have been so tired. I know you might not feel the same way, but I have been so tired of getting hooked by a Nautilus and losing half my HP, and I can't do the same damage back to him early game. Like, not even early game. Like, level 9. I'm like level 9, he's like level 7, level 6, something like this. I get hooked, his base damage is so high, and he's so tanky, I can't kill him at that stage. I don't have enough damage. And it's very frustrating to play against. Because it feels like if I have a level advantage, I should be able to at least like fight back or something, right? And the same thing with Leona and like sometimes Thresh when he builds Stone Plate. It gets really annoying because it just makes them really, really hard to kill. And honestly, I would almost prefer playing against Janna and Lulu even though they have shields and other ways to keep themselves alive. Because if they make a positional error, they are very easily popped. Meanwhile, Nautilus and Leona, you make a positional error, you hit your stun, and then you have Aftershock Stone Plate.
Yeah, I can see your point. I just think that, when in that finals in particular, like they were just like picking Tahm Kench blind, and then like they would just, we're just gonna play Lulu, like, and then I think the third game where Janna was picked, it was literally because they had Zac top. And they also blind picked Braum. So it was a good lane matchup, and also it was good for the team. So Janna could disengage the Zac going in. So I think that it's still good, like, situationally. And I think G2 is the first team to finally pull it out, where, like, I think Enchanter supports were good for a while. It's just that teams were afraid to pick it because they were like, no one else is playing these champs. But because they were playing these champs, supposedly, like, Mithy was talking to Sven, and he was like, man, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I heard about this.
I don't know what to do about this because, like, what are we supposed to pick into this sort of thing? It's like you either, match it or, like, you just take the bad lane matchup or something like that. Because, like, let's say, like, let's saying, like, pick, like, Lulu or like, Karma or, like, Nami or some shit, right? Mm-hmm. Mickey could obviously pick a tank support and try to kill them, just, like, skill matchup, or he could just match it with the Enchanter as well. But obviously, I guess Fnatic never practiced that, so they were kind of just like, what the fuck do we do sort of thing, because they know that...
also... Continue, sorry.
Because they know that G2 are going to play these Enchanter supports, especially Yuumi. Like, they showed during, the Mad series on the losers run back that they were just playing Yuumi with, like, Vayne or, like, Ezreal, and they were just, like, murdering everyone, which, like, makes sense because... Yuumi with the hyper carry, AD, quote unquote, Ezreal's kind of hyper carry. You just murder literally everyone, and you can't kill them. So,
I mean, Yumi makes anyone a hyper carry, honestly.
That is
And,
very
and
true.
that's the thing about Yumi that's different than the other mage Enchanter supports is that she just makes anyone on your team incredibly powerful, like
And you
so
can't kill
strong,
her.
and you can't kill her, which is like and this is kind of what bothers me. But the weakness of Enchanter supports is that they're very easy to kill. How do you kill an Enchanter that's on someone?
You kill the guy that's on them,
Yeah,
but
you
you
have to kill
can't when
them.
they're getting
That's the
healed for like
problem.
300
Exactly.
HP.
Exactly. So that's like a balance. That's like a design philosophy issue that I don't agree with, personally, because it doesn't make sense. You took away the weakness of something that's supposed to have a weakness, basically, right?
Hmm.
And the other Enchanter supports that got played, I don't think. I think for a long time they, like you said, they've been good, and no one has wanted to play them. Obviously, people have tried them in scrims, and I
But
think,
then they just get like dumpstered or something.
yeah, and I think that's. I think scrims. People have said that scrims are way more aggressive than they are in professional play, right?
Hmm.
It's a known fact. Everybody knows you play different in scrims than you do professionally. You're more aggressive, right? So obviously, in a more aggressive scrim environment, the Enchanter support isn't gonna look as good if you make a mistake, right? They're gonna get like farmed by Nautilus Leona if you're playing up.
Hmm.
That's the logic, right? And obviously, we saw this weekend in LAC that the lanes were passive. They were shoved in the whole time. They had a better jungle matchup, so you can't do anything. And that's what made it seem like so oppressive to me. And they really couldn't do anything about it
Yeah.
because they had the weaker. They opted. It was a pretty bad draft from Fnatic. I'll say that. And then the players also weren't playing great. Unfortunately, it seemed like pretty bad series for a few players. But I think the draft around the style of bot lane. This is something we would have seen in 2017, right? Where you draft Enchanter plus better jungler, and then the enemy team's like, what do? We can't fight them. We sit here and we farm up and we get, our item
Outscaled and then we
spikes.
lose.
Yeah, you get outscaled and then we lose. Or, you make the comeback at like 40-minute team fights, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's a good answer. I think that it's good that tank supports have an answer.
Yeah.
Like that you can't just blind tank supports.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been able to blind them anyways, but
Yeah, it's been a long time that no NL, LS, right, has been saying like, why does no one play enchanters? Blah 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 blah. I think now someone's shown it's possible.
hmm.
This is probably where an international competition could have really shown what's going on. Because Karma has seen a bit of play in LPL,
Yeah,
and I think
I think
Karma's good.
Karma's like a good like overall like enchanter support because like she doesn't have like massive heals or anything like that, but she has shield, she has poke, and then her mantra shield, which like speeds every E1 up and gives them all a shield, is like pretty good as well. And I think it's also like a middle ground for the tank supports. Like if she like gets hooked in or like stunned, she can mantra W and like heal a lot of that damage up. So she can kind of be somewhat tanky in a way. Or like deceptively tanky because of that. So she's not gonna get like popped or like one shot like a Lulu or Janna or something like that. So I could see why Karma's getting played in LPL.
Hmm. And honestly, I think it's a welcome change to the meta. I feel like it's been a bit stale, honestly.
Yeah, we haven't seen Enchanter since like Ardent meta pretty much.
Yeah, I haven't seen an Enchanter since 2017.
Yeah.
It's literally been all tank support since 2018. They changed it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with different levels of how annoying it was, right? Obviously, the aftershock changes were pretty annoying. I think in 2019, and the stone plate. I don't know. What did stone plate get buffed and people started using it, or was it just like
I think it was just that
someone just built it?
someone built it and then they realized, wait, this shit's really like gold efficient. And when you get stopwatch and like the runes or whatever, you save some gold. So you're able to just like get it really early and be like deceptively tanky. So, and since
Not even
most of the,
deceptively, bro.
I mean, you are tanky when you hit that button. So, when you go in as like Nautilus or Leona, you go in, you hit R, you press stone plate, and then they can't kill you. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But I think, depending on which teams decide to pull it out and which drafts we get, because you can't just blind a Lulu or a Karma, depending on, like what the matchup is and things like that. So I think the way that G2 played it and the way that Fnatic played it, it just favored it in G2's way to just like pick these champions. So I think that's about it for our little tangent. I think we should move on to the Academy playoffs now.
Yes. Which
So
were
they
exciting.
were
A little bit exciting. I mean,
yeah.
fairly standard in how you thought it would go, right?
Yeah, it was mostly 3-0s, but there were a couple of 3-1s in there.
I think the upset would have been EG versus Dig. I mean, before we get to that, right? We should talk about TLA and 100 Thieves A.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, coming into the quarterfinals, we both knew that TLA kind of squeaked in very at the end of the season.
Yeah, they somehow managed to get in there.
Somehow, after that abysmal start, 1-5, I think it was, maybe 1-6.
Yeah, it was a really bad start, but they managed to clutch it in there.
And before the series, or as we were watching it, right, we said this is going to be a jungle difference. It's Onda versus not jungle difference. Sorry, laning difference. I was thinking 100 these. It was going to be a laning difference between Giyu and sorry, his name is escaping me. Tuesday, sorry. And the bot lane Cow and who it was Ryoma at the end. Not Ryoma. Jesus.
Rikara.
Sorry, it's the R. It's the R that's supposed to be up. The bot lane difference between Matt definitely and then Rikara and Cow was evident throughout the season, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it was pretty hard to say, and obviously Jenkins wasn't going to be a big contender. We knew that he was a weak link, right? So
yeah,
it was pretty obvious to me who was going to be winning the series from the get-go. And it was pretty dominant from EG. The first game was close. Yeah. But after that, it was not close at all.
Yeah, it just seemed like to me that like EG were able to like find out how they wanted it to play like all together as a team. Even like before Giyu came in, like Giyu was, like he was pretty much the last piece of like this main roster's puzzle, and like they got him, and then they were like, all right, so this is how he's gonna play, so we'll just play like this sort of thing. And like Onda obviously knows how to like jungle early, and Definitely and Matt have been playing together for a while, so I think EG just like had like the better individual players, and then they also like had a better game plan going in to the series, in my opinion.
Yeah. And honestly, unfortunately, Schernfire did have a bad series, I've got to say. 1-7 on the Talia, 3-10 on Karthus, 0-8 on Jarvan. Mm-hmm. Pretty rough in the 3 games. Rikara had some good games. Had a good game, a really good one. But obviously, the differences in the other lanes really showed up, and it made it pretty hard for anything to be done. Pretty unfortunate. So TLA, maybe they get maybe they make a roster change somewhere. Maybe top lane I think is their weakest point, right?
Yeah.
Aside from that though, it's maybe now that they have from the beginning of the split to mesh in the summer, they'll be able to do something.
I think
maybe make the semis.
I think the main problem with TL is that like, well, for this series anyways, is that like you said, Schernfire was not playing well at all, and I think he has a pretty big voice on the team, especially since he is the jungler. So how early A games played out and things like that, I think is pretty much dictated by how he's playing. And since he wasn't playing all that hot during this particular day in this series, it's just unfortunate. But I think, Jenkins being the weak link top is pretty warranted. Game 3, he was not doing so bad on the Akali. But
it is Akali. You gotta remember. Akali literally only does damage. I was watching this game and he was trying, but the problem is Akali just isn't old Akali. You can't 1v5 anymore, and it's apparent when you see like Olaf is running out of Akali. What is Akali supposed to do? She can't kill Olaf.
Mm-hmm. I think
And,
also
yeah.
a part of this is that what's it called? Actually, never mind. I forget what I was gonna say.
It's all right. But yeah, I wouldn't say people lots of people like to talk about the draft, right? I wouldn't say in any particular game TLA was outdrafted.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to put it to play for the most part. Um, and people are always like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's the draft. It's the draft. It's the draft. I think you can point at a certain number of picks and say, like, this is a problem. But I think overall, the drafts were solid enough that they should have been able to win.
Yeah.
So, no disrespect to whoever is making the drafts on TLA. Solid drafts just couldn't pull it off, right?
Yeah. I guess the champions that the players wanted to play and like the coaching staff were okay with playing. I guess they just weren't able to execute on this particular game day. Especially because like I'm watching like clips of game 3 right now, like TLA just like randomly getting caught in their jungle with like no vision.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's just a communication thing probably, because it seems weird that like no one would know that like they're on this side of the map because we have no vision, and then someone just walks in with no vision and then just dies, So
I think that happens a lot in the academy, though.
yeah,
Where people will walk in with no vision and get punished for it.
it's kind of bad.
Unfortunate, but it happens, right?
Yeah.
Quick series for EG. They moved on to the semis to play Dig. On the
Mm-hmm.
other side of the bracket, TSM played 100 Thieves Academy, and
I didn't think it was gonna be this one-sided, if I'm gonna
you
be
didn't.
honest.
I remember telling you it was gonna be pretty one-sided. Because I memed it at the time, but I said jungle difference, right? But I think it was very apparent watching the series how different Spica's influence was on the game versus Contrax's influence on the game.
Mm-hmm.
There was also some solo kills going around for some of the solo lanes, which was pretty. I'm honestly gonna say pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like Evolve solo killed Soligo in game 2, Syndra versus Azir. There was the weird Graves top that didn't do awful into Renekton, but Dokla just ran over his team. And then
Yeah.
obviously the Dokla. I mean Dokla paid Poppy into Fake God's Renekton, and Fake God got solo killed, and I'm like, what the hell? He's Renekton. How is he getting solo killed? It
Yeah.
was a very rough game, I've got to say, from the solo lanes on 100 Thieves. Soligo in the third game played really well, but it just wasn't enough to pull them over, especially when you see Jarvan going 1-0 and 17 on the game, like just crushing it. And also, honestly, the bot lane.
Yeah, I think the bot lane diff for this
The
series was
bot
kind
lane
of
diff
apparent.
was massive, right?
Yeah.
I think those were the two places that it was the worst, jungle and bot lane.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, solo kills happen, right? For the most part, they were going pretty even. But yeah, the bot lane, they even played 2 games, or not 2 games. They played 1 game of Zyra Khan, and they got bodied.
Yeah, the
Really
first game,
badly. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they were doing. It just seemed like the players, Prismal and Breezy, were just like, I guess they forgot how to pilot those champions or something, because they were just running it into the.
It was odd.
Yeah, they were actually just running it down. And then the second game, they drafted Senna Set. That bot lane, like, in my opinion, Set support's kind of bad in a way, because like he's literally just a go in button, but he's like a worse like Nautilus Leona in a way. But he's okay in this sort of like support role because he's Set, if you know what I mean.
No, I totally understand, but I think against Zyra Khan, strong lane,
Yeah.
tough to play, especially for Senna. I think.
And Set, because I've laned against the Set before, and Set's not a very strong laner. If he
No.
doesn't land his E, he doesn't get Aftershock. And
And
then when he
I
doesn't
don't
have
even think it
Aftershock, you can just kill
matters.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't even think it matters when you're Rakan, right? You get E'd, and then you just E to Zaya, and then
yeah.
what did the set accomplish there, right?
It's a
You
pretty good
use his
like bot
cooldowns, and he
lane.
can go back in. Yeah, I mean, Zaya Rakan saw Prio. We saw it get banned out in the third game,
Hmm.
and honestly, I don't think it even mattered. They just played, TSM Academy played MF and Nautilus versus the Kaisa Braum, and honestly, Braum's not that good. Gonna say that. Don't think he does
Uh,
much at the moment.
yeah, I would agree because
Um,
he's good in very like situational picks. I would say like if your team has like a lot of auto attack damage sort of thing, like he can be good. But for in lane, like he just doesn't get prio. Like even when you're like quote unquote countering it against like Leona or like Nautilus, I think it's okay into Leona. But even into like Nautilus, like it's pretty hard to play into. Especially for this game. And it just seemed like that like Breezy was just not playing well on this particular day because I feel like that he's a pretty good support. It's just that he's either fallen off or like he just had a really bad game day.
yeah,
The pressure got to him.
possibly. I think this is Breezy's first split in Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Second, maybe. First, right?
I believe it's his first, so
Yeah. So obviously he could, you know,
could
it's
have
understandable. He
jitters.
has a rough. Yeah, he has a rough quarterfinal. Especially against a tough opponent. Treats
Yeah, Treat's
is a
pretty good.
very good bot laner. I say bot laner. I mean support.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Lost also one of the best in OS at the time, alongside King and FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, FBI is playing in LCS, so it can't be that much of a difference. And sorry.
It's all good. But yeah, I just think that 100 Thieves were just not playing well on this particular game day, but at the same time, TSM were just on point in terms of like what they wanted to do, things like that.
Yeah, and I kind of also have to say that the drafts were pretty iffy.
Yeah.
Um,
I think game
you
3 they
know,
were just looking for like comfort picks because they were like, all right, it's fucking match point.
yeah, no, game theory might get, but like the first game, Renekton Elise into Poppy, like you can't dive that, unfortunately. So like you can't punish it with your Renekton Elise. Um, and honestly, I feel like if 100 Thieves Academy had gotten to play, maybe if they got the Jarvid baby, if they got a Poppy, their team cup would be better.
Yeah.
And
If
that's
like one
just
of
the
these
thing.
games, they
Yeah,
got the
and I
J4.
think I mean obviously the Graves pick is like giga weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't understand the point of it personally. I get that it was like a flex for jungler at the
Mm-hmm.
time, but it really didn't do anything. And honestly, it was just like really weird. The drafts weren't like cohesive, but I think even with better drafts, they might not have done much.
Yeah. I just think that they weren't playing particularly well, like at all. So
I mean,
TSM
it's
were
a
just
combination of both.
yeah, TSM were just a better team.
Hmm. And obviously they moved on to play Cloud9 in the semis,
Mm-hmm.
which was and honestly it was kind of close.
Yeah, it went to 4 games, but
It went to 4 games.
C9 are just smurfing in both Academy and LCS. So
Yeah, and but there was some counter picks going around for Cloud9 that they could play, which made it honestly impossible for some of these lanes to like go any other way than like bad. Um, the first game, talking about the first, they got the Ornn right, so
mm-hmm.
good matchup. They got Zoe and they got Ebeth Nautilus. So 3 strong lanes and then Graves to top it off, who with strong lanes is very powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the bot lane matchup is where it kind of tilted for TSM. They were able to beat Varus Thresh with King and Diamond, and they were able to like kind of snowball that, where Nori really didn't get to do anything versus a Graves that is just really farmed up and going in, and the Zoe obviously was just long range poking, and it was fairly difficult for the team comp for Cloud9 to do anything versus that kind of draft, right?
Yeah, because when they have Zoe, it's like, all right, who's gonna like get the Zoe sort of thing. They have the LB, which can try to get the Zoe, and then they
It's
also
tough.
yeah, it's pretty hard. And then they also have the Set, which like in theory could try to also get the Zoe, but it's also kind of tough. So and then they also have a pretty strong front line with Ornn and Nautilus. So TSM are kind of able to just do whatever they want, especially in the early game when like they have Graves who can just farm up and actually like gank lanes pretty well. Trundle, he can't really farm up as well as Graves because it's fucking Trundle.
He was
But
down over 100 at the end of the game.
yeah, I'm not surprised because it's Graves. He just presses Q and then he just autos everything. So it was definitely a pretty rough first game. Um, But I think after that, C9 kind of knew like what they had to do to win the series. So, like some of the picks that they pulled out were pretty interesting. The Silas top into Ornn, I think we've seen before in other competitive scenes, maybe in Academy as well. But I think it's pretty good because you pretty much just take the most important part of Ornn in his like abilities, anyways, is like his ulti. So you're able to engage with that, and also TSM drafted some like pretty decent alts for him to steal as well. Braum ult, Ezreal ult. So I think that even like Trundle ult, because he could just take that and then Trundle on the Ornn. So I think that C9 had like a pretty good like drafting strategy after the first game. They were like, all right, this is what went wrong here, so let's just try to not do that again, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and it totally made sense. They got a stronger bot lane in the second game, and we saw the adaptation very quickly.
Hmm.
Obviously, Coach Rainover, who's coaching the academy team this
Big
split,
brain.
big brain. He sees what goes wrong, right? He bans at the set himself to remove the power pick from TSM. TSM doesn't respect and bans Aphelios instead of Ornn. And at that point, you don't have an answer to Ornn. And so they get Ornn on blue side and are able to draft Zyrakan into Nautilus MF. Solid lane, easily winnable.
Hmm.
You draft the same mid matchup. It's difficult for LeBlanc to kill the Zoe, but it's possible, and you know, she has agency versus Zoe, so it still works. And
Hmm.
then they drafted Rek'Sai, and while Nori's score didn't look great at the end of the game, it did what it needed to do in the early game and made sure that the lanes were able to, especially bot lane, was able to win and mid lane. And I think
Hmm.
that's the important part. Spica obviously also didn't have a great game, but he's Jarvan into an early game Rek'Sai, so that will definitely skew how he does. And obviously, it was very clear Cloud9 adapted amazing in the series.
Yeah.
Um, and they had great counter picks. You talked about the Silas in the third game, just like wrecking their team, right? But then there's also the Cassidy counter pick into Azir, which was honestly kind of triggering. I don't want to I don't want to play that matchup. Like, and boy, did Evolve get slapped. Like,
Yeah.
Palafox was hard carrying. He
Hmm.
went 10-2 on Cassidon in pro play. That's fucking hard. That that's fucking hard. Like, and honestly, there's no answers to Cassidon in this draft from TSM. Like,
Yeah.
what does Ornn Trundle do? What does like
Especially
maybe
since, they last picked it and they probably thought it was like Silas Smith or something.
exactly? So it honestly it was great drafting from C9 in the third game, completely outplayed, and the same thing happened in the fourth game. Right? They lock in Zoe. They have no answer to the Cassidon. What
Hmm.
he goes 17-2 in this game. There's no answer. Like they tried to do Kindred, but like Kindred's not an answer. Like doesn't do anything for you. Like
Yeah.
it delays, but he still will kill you.
And once again,
Especially when they gave over Aphelios. This game they traded Aphelios and Ornn,
hmm
but there's nothing really you could do versus Cassidon. And just in these two games, like we saw Cassidon in LEC where it did nothing. but it's the same. It's the same. It's where the team comp you pick Acid into matters a lot. And in these two games, Pilot Fox has the pocket pick, and he dumpsters them.
Yeah, and I think you know, Rainover's, I guess, C9 Academy's like overall way of drafting is like pretty smart. So like going into the fourth game, like they banned Yumi themselves because they're like, we don't want that because they wanted the Braum. So like they knew that like this is like a pretty bad matchup for Braum. Like, all right, we can't just give them the Yumi like they did the last game where C9 just got the Braum or the Yumi, I should say. And then, he just hangs on the Cassidon, and then Cassidon just gets to 1v9 or like the MF and just, help her out. So I think, C9 definitely knew how they wanted to draft, and like they had a pretty smart way of doing it, especially since, they were willing to ban things away that they know how to play, sort of thing, because normally when people look at bans, they're like, oh, we can't play this, so we have to ban it, sort of thing. But that's not how I think it should be. I think it should be like, you know how to play everything, but you ban it away because you want to do this certain strategy this game.
Yeah, you want to force them into something that's suboptimal.
Yeah.
And I agree that, Cloud9 outdrafted. I could also say that TSM had some questionable drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Picking Tarek, like, letting support go to second round in the last game, forcing treats on Tarek. This is a situation where maybe an Enchanter support into Braum would have been really good.
Yeah, because I'm
Um,
looking at it right now. Like they have Aphelios, Braum, J4, and then they have Ornn, Zoe, MF, right? They
mhm.
could like easily like pick like maybe like Karma here, or even like Lulu, or even Janna. Um,
Yeah, but my thing is that what was odd for like the thing is everybody knows like you first like if you first round Zoe on red side, you're trolling. Right,
mm-hmm,
you're giving up a counter pick on your solo lane. The only solo lane you have to left to pick because you picked Ornn in the first
mm-hmm.
round. So you're giving up your solo lane counter pick for what? What did they get? Was Tarek last pick or was
It
Kindred last pick?
was it was Kindred.
So there you go. What does that do? It doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, because the invulnerabilities like on paper from like Tarek Kindred is like, oh shit, like that's broken. But like if you do it like wrong, or like the team just waits it out, or if you fall behind early like they did, it's not gonna be good. So and once again, the Caston comes through, and I think TSM's answers to Caston for their team comp is like almost non-existent. Like what, Zoe
No, of
bubble,
course.
Tarek stun, like those things are hard to land.
And the thing is, like, they had an option to go Zyra Khan. They had they had options, right? Say you
Mm-hmm.
draft Ornn with Zyra Khan. That's a pretty good first round. You pick a jungler on third rotation, preferably something tanky because you have to counter pick mid. Um, and then
Mm-hmm.
also you can't blind Cassidon.
Yeah.
It has to be into certain matchups and certain team comps. So just by holding your mid five pick, you can have an answer for Cassidon. And obviously the worst part is that like Cassidon into any AP champ sucks. So you'd have to draft 80, maybe Lucian, um, maybe Jace. Jace has seen a comeback in recent weeks. By top lane and
Mm-hmm.
also only in the LCK really and in the LPL, not really much anywhere else. LPL and LCK playoffs are still going on, and Jace was highly contested in the past series. Um, so that's where maybe NA teams not trying new things, right? Because they're playing on the same patch as them. There was no Jace here,
Yeah.
so obviously there's some experimentation going on over in the East that's not happening here, and the it's being rewarded because I saw Jace slapping Ornn straight bodied.
Yeah.
That Ornn didn't do shit. That Jace was hard carrying. But also, this is NA Jace, so
Could be different.
Kind of could be different, yeah. I think, moving on from this series to the other one. Honestly, this is where I was
Slightly surprised.
surprised. Yeah. Kind of surprised, honestly. Like I knew that Dig Academy wasn't the same beast as the first half of the regular season,
Mm-hmm.
simply because they lost Acadian and other teams were catching up
Mm-hmm.
fairly quickly. Cloud9 being the one who caught up the fastest,
Yeah.
and also surpassed them. There were clear issues in the games from Dig Academy. They they did do a draft that I liked in the first game where they basically said, you know, you picked Zoe, our counter is Gragas Yasuo, and it's a good counter into Zoe, but you know what came up? Jungle difference. Uh,
True.
they tried to play in mid. They got double killed by Anda and Giyu. It was pretty bad. Like Gragas Yasuo should not be getting 2v2'd by by Jarvan Zoe. Because Gragas is just supposed to fucking R the Zoe, she dies, and then Jarvan doesn't have enough damage to finish off, right?
Yeah.
But obviously they got 2v2 killed. They couldn't do anything. Phoenix and Ole went even versus Deftly and Matt early game, but then they got bodied later on once the teams were moving. And, Lorlo just didn't have any like real opportunities to do anything. He was playing set. He did have the counter pick, but unfortunately he couldn't get anything done in the matchup. He couldn't get any great ultis off. The team fights were pretty bad, but they were behind. There's a lot of factors for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the overall tone of the series was just
Yeah. I think in game one, right when Greg ganked and then Matt was there and Greg died, I was like, all right, the game's over. Like,
yeah, yeah. You can't fall behind with the team comp.
yeah. It's also because like I know that like Demonte and Acadian are like pretty close and they know how they want to play the jungle
They
mid.
live together too.
Yeah. So when it's like, oh, okay, now I got this new guy and we're doing this Gragas Yasuo comp that requires a pretty decent amount of like communication and like synergy, and then it's like, oh shit, we fucked up the early game. All right, I guess it's over. Cause like now like, Zoe has a assist on top of Demonte, and like Demonte already he went D shield, so like, he wasn't trying to win lane anyways. But now it's just even in a worse spot, and since they're playing a team comp where they need to be ahead or they need to wait for like three items, which is like not ideal at all. It just seemed like pretty doom right after that first blood, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this series was also odd because both teams just basically agreed, you're playing blue, I'm playing red, and the draft adaptation afterwards came from there. Um, the Dignitas Academy played 4 games blue side, obviously
Mm-hmm.
only winning one, and
Yeah,
I've got
it,
to
it
say,
it just seems weird that they would just
yeah,
opted to
and
just play one
I've got
side.
to say it was odd the way they drafted in game 4 after how they performed in game 3. That's basically all I have to say. They had options and they could have ran it back, honestly. That's what I'm basically saying. But they chose not to, and they went for this Kindred Silas that really didn't work out, especially since Ando on the Sejuani was just able to like manhandle Greg, and he really got nothing done that game. Like it was really unfortunate. Like that game was unfortunate, I've got to say, because Kindred does like if Sedge gets on top of you, you can just lose the 1v1, and
Mm-hmm.
that happened, and it was pretty rough, honestly. Um, Anda had, I think, a great series. He had really good score lines across the 3 games, especially the second game where they pulled out Nidalee, which I thought was really cool. Because technically technically I would say they had guaranteed 2 winning lanes and an even lane top lane, and then Nidalee was just able to fucking farm like a beast. And I think late game Nidalee uh, it's a little bit of a meme, but at some point, like that, she was hitting like a
Yeah, at
truck.
a certain point, she's just gonna one shot one of the carries.
Yeah, and it was
Um,
pretty rough, honestly. But the game was close. It was a really close game until they lost to Baron, they lost to Drake.
yeah, it just seemed like Dig were ahead, right? And then actually, wait, is this the game? Yeah, so Dig were ahead in game two, right?
Mhm.
And then like they just chose a shitty fucking play, and then they lost everyone.
Yeah, and I was watching this game, and Jesus, like I don't understand how you have this much of a lead and you just toss it away. You're just like,
Yeah,
here you go,
cause like
take this. Like
you
Guy
know,
was 0-4.
yeah, this is the
He was
second game
0-4.
where I've seen Giyu like run it, and then he just wins, and I'm like, all right, cool. I guess he just won. So I don't know. I think Ole and Phoenix were just like, all right, we'll just play Varus Braum because like it's a pretty solid lane, you know. Um, because once you hit six, Varus throws ulti, then you just CC combo this and that, and like team fighting's pretty good as well. But he went for the poke Varus. So I think that's slightly worse with Braum, especially because you want to be autoing.
Hmm.
So when you're doing the poke Varus, you gotta like, land cues and things like that. You're not really focused on like autoing them, sort of thing. But I think there's definitely like a lot of communication issues with Dig. It looked like from the games because like, especially in game one, like Greg went top and like they like layered their ultis, but like not correctly, and like
Hmm.
Greg missed some things and like, Lolo went in and things like that. So I think if they had more communication or if they just kept playing with Acadian, they probably would have had a better chance of winning the series. I'm not going to say that they would have outright won it, but their chances of winning would have been a lot higher, I think.
Yeah, and obviously, when you come into a split halfway through, I think it's pretty hard on a player's mental when you're on the main team and you just get sent down to academy
And then you
and you,
start
then
doing
you
bad in
and then you
academy.
start doing. Yeah, I think it's really hard on the mental. And obviously, Greg and Acadian are very different styles of players.
Hmm.
The Acadian has come out and said that me and Greg communicate very differently. Greg is more of a very quiet, you know, kind of player, and this is from Acadian when he was
Yeah, on
speaking
the crackdown.
on the crackdown, where he was talking how he communicates a lot more than Greg does, and they do it very differently. I can see how that dynamic is, it's difficult for a team when your jungler used to talk a lot and now your jungler doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah, I think having a jungler that talks a lot, especially in the early game, is very good because that's the most important part of the jungle role is being able to shot call the way you're pathing and the way you want to play the early game.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I just think that EG were also just the better team and like they knew how to like come back, especially in this game two where I'm just
And,
like watching like Dig just run it in and like
mhm.
not getting the fights that they want because EG have MF Nautilus where they're able to stall out a fight along with Ornn. So they're able to just stall out a fight and still deal damage and just win the fights. So I
Yeah,
just think that they had no idea what they wanted to do clearly. Anyways, like they
yeah,
had an idea of what they wanted to do, but they weren't like,
they couldn't execute on it, honestly.
yeah, that's it. They weren't able
Hmm.
to fulfill what they wanted to do.
And
Anyways,
honestly, Anda, I think had a great series.
yeah, Anda's been playing
So
well.
yeah, and I think honestly, it wasn't odd that he wasn't playing in LCS this split, right? Because Darda got moved up, Meteos moved to a different team, Import Broxa came over from Broxa and Closer came over as imports. You know, you start seeing the talent in the league go up a little bit. So he gets pushed down even if he doesn't exactly deserve to be an academy, right?
Hmm.
But what's the oddest part is that he wasn't even on an academy team at the start. Um,
Yeah,
EG
he
only
was
picked him
just
up
free
because he had
agent.
an yeah, he was just a free, and that's honestly a travesty when you think about it because he made it to the finals in academy and he played really really well, especially in the semifinal game.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and obviously Wiggly had a bad split. I think everybody on CLG had a pretty bad split. Um, so maybe there are chances for some academy players to move up for the summer, especially because it's not likely that imports are coming due to the current situation.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, possible chances for some players to move up, and I think Onda could be one. Played really well.
Yeah, he definitely played his mind out, I would say.
Mm-hmm. On to the final,
Yes, the finals.
which was
C9 EG, which I don't
mm-hmm.
think people expected EG, especially the
No,
first week where they were just trolling the fucking games.
no. Nobody expected EG to be in the final.
But C9A, I think, were the clear favorites of winning because they've just been in the regular
On a
season towards
tear.
the end, and
Mm-hmm.
then their playoffs run, they were just playing super duper well. The first game, however, was relatively close.
Honestly, all three games were close,
Yeah,
but we can expand on that later. Let's talk about the first one.
yeah. I think the first game was, like it's the first game, so people are more willing to like make plays and do things like that. I just think that EG had like better tools and better ways to initiate than C9 did, sort of thing, because
I would agree.
it's easy EQ R J4, and then you have Nautilus that just presses R, then hooks the person afterwards, and then Ornn, he's Ornn. And then when it came to C9's comp, you have Thresh, who isn't a initiator, but he's a good like peeler, sort of like second hand initiator. Like if like Gragas body slams someone, like he could hook off of that, or like Verisalt someone, he could hook off that sort of thing. I just think that C9's comp was just harder to execute in the early stages, and like EG were just able to like get fights off where cooldowns were down or whatever it was. But C9 did eventually were able to pull out the win, surprisingly.
Yeah, and watching this game, it was super close. 20 minutes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the gold lead was minuscule. There was essentially no difference, and that's where it was surprising me because EG had the kill lead. They should have had like some sort of gold lead, and they didn't. I was like, so how is C9 still in this, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes rolls around, and the game is just dead even, and then over. Like Cloud9 just wins team fight after team fight, and they're able. And honestly, I think that's the difference where the series came in, is that they were team fighting a lot better than EG was, and
Mm-hmm.
we can argue drafts played a part in that. Giyu playing Akali makes it really hard to team fight. He's like, especially with Akali's nerfs, right? Like this kind of thing happens. And Cloud9 was able to bring the game close and then end it.
Yeah. And I think that this is a good example of when to go on hit Varus, especially for this game, because, you have Syndra, who is sort of, she's not going to do like consistent damage in a team fight. She's going to like one shot someone and then like play off of her cooldown, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, with on hit Varus, you just keep autoing and you're still doing damage. Wow, look at that.
Especially into like Nautilus, Ornn, Jarvan.
Yeah, because you want to be doing like consistent damage and not just like poking them the way that that play style is played.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think that once like that Baron fight happened, like C9 were just like, all right, we could like just push lanes and like get more towers and get more gold, and probably like force plays around that. Especially since they know like what cooldowns were used. Like MF used both of her sums, so she has no cleanse and flash. So they were just able to like capitalize on that and just like end the game pretty cleanly afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly
And
very surprised how fast they like closed the game right after that.
yeah, right. Like, and okay, so honestly, the early games for all of these were pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were slow, low kills, fairly even. But somehow, I think it's because Cloud9 had really good Drake control. but they were forcing fights like 22, 23 minutes into the game, winning those fights, and then the game is over. Like, they go for Baron, they get Baron, and then the game's done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this happened in the second game where, like, they just wombo comboed the fuck out of out of EG. Like there's
Yeah.
the Kiana came in, she lands a 4-man stun.
I'm actually
Gragas
watching
barrel.
the last team fight for game 1. Dude, Fudge literally ults in the Ornn. Definitely's right on top of the Ornn. He's like half HP, and then he dies. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, no, like that shit happens. Like, and Fudge on set was like pleasure to watch. He was popping off, and like EG basically said like, I don't know why EG didn't take the set themselves. I honestly think it's because Brandini is incapable. Because in the TSM, oh no, sorry, not TSM. In the Dig set, he played 4 games of Ornn into set. And then in this set, he plays 2 games of Ornn into set, and then he realizes, shit, Fudge is better than Lorlo at set. I'm getting clapped. So obviously that can be where the matchup, you just played 4 games of this matchup and won, and you think, oh, this is how this matchup goes. You played against someone who's better at the matchup, and you're like, this is awful. I don't want to play this. He switches over to Aatrox. Not much better, honestly.
Yeah. I guess Fudge must know something that we don't, or like C9's coaching staff must also know something that Brandini didn't. So, yeah, I just think that...
it felt like it was known that set was better, though.
I mean, like...
especially into Ornn.
Into Ornn, like, I guess, because, you just ult that guy in.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
as Ornn, you have to time your W when he ults you. And, like, that's super hard, especially in team fights when it's just, like, shit going everywhere.
It's so weird, honestly. I think that's a really hard timing, because he's, like, I don't know, the RKO animation's kind of weird, so, like, I don't know. I don't play fucking set, so I'm not sure what the timing is or anything. That, yeah.
It just seems, like, super weird that, like, they would just give him the set and just be like, all right, just play this OP champion. We don't care.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel, Anda had to play Elise in 2 of the games. And that kind of sucks because, especially into Gragas is just better Elise. Like, slightly weaker early, but then much stronger because you
Team
watch
fighting.
a Gragas press like EQR and a carry go to like 200 HP, and you're sitting there like, bro, what was I supposed to do? I got one shot by a fucking jungler. Like, and he didn't have to do anything. He just had to walk up on me, and when he got close enough, he just hits me with his belly, like,
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck, what do I do?
And then
where's
Elise,
the counterplay?
you actually have to like land.
Yeah, you actually have to land something, right? Like, that's why I think Gragas is just fucking better Elise. Slightly weaker early game, like slightly weaker tower diving, but besides that, way better every other point of the game.
True. Elise is literally just like the queen of early game for jungle. I view it as, because like you said, like she can literally dive top or like
level 3. Yeah,
like level 3, and like no other jungler can do that without like severely like risking their life.
Risking.
So, but it was definitely nice to go and see him pull it out, especially in a final series where it was like, all right, like we were ahead game 1 and then we threw it, so let's see if we could get a better early game.
Yeah, I think also there was an issue with Giyu's champion pool.
Oh yeah. He's playing Irelia.
Yeah, he played Irelia, he played Akali, and he played Lissandra in the last game.
He's trying to pop off in the finals. Respect.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, right? He wants to, like, take the skill matchup, do it better, right? But, like, it just doesn't work out when you don't have pressure in the lane, especially with Kiana Gragas. That's a combo we saw last year dominate in North America. It was literally Dignitas running that, like, every fucking game, like, hey guys, look, we made it to Worlds playing. It's one of those ads where it's like, they hate this one secret trick, how to get to Worlds. Like, it's fucking Kiana Gragas, and it's just like, what do you do?
Yeah. It was definitely
Doctors
very
hate
odd
him.
for game 3 for Gyu to just be like, just give me lists. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Lists?
right? Like, into that. And it's not even that good of a matchup. I have played that matchup. Like,
Yeah, the matchup
LeBlanc, it's
has
a skill
changed
match. You
so
can win
bad.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be awful. It used to be like, Lysandra does too much damage. RQW. Oh, fuck, I'm dead. Like, that's how it used to go. Nowadays, it's like, Lysandra doesn't do enough damage. Just don't. You have to land your chain and use your Q, and you can't, like, W onto her. But basically, that is how you win the matchup. You don't W onto her. You press E and Q. You land those two. You win the trade.
I
That's
mean,
it.
yeah, Palafox just solo killed him, so.
Yeah. So like I think his champion pool was a little bit an issue in the finals. But I, the game really came down to some jungle differences between. I don't want to give it jungle. I want to say mid jungle. I'm gonna say Inori and Palafox outclassed Anda and Giyu. Maybe a little bit more for Palafox, who really showed up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not many spots in LCS to look at for mid lane, I think.
Yeah, just get rid of Ica.
Oh, those guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost forgot.
just get rid of the imports. And then spots open up.
Uh,
Wow.
honestly, I'm curious. I mean, I know Ica's like the worst mid laner, right? Fucking Giyu could replace this guy, right?
Yeah.
So, those are two mid laners. And Giyu is limited, so that's why I don't. How do I say? I'm not big on him because he has like a limited champion pool, but I think someone like Palafox and Demonte are pretty, you know, desirable for moving up. I think
Hmm.
it's a good time to talk about who could move up. Inori coming back looked really good. Palafox was solid last year, but on another level this year, much better than on it. Looked like the best mid laner, hands down.
Hmm.
And obviously, Diamond has been in the C9 system for around a year now, a
I
little bit
think
more,
over a year. Yeah.
over a year now,
Yeah.
year and a half. So I think C9 system is just really good. Obviously, Fudge is an import. King is an import. So it's tough for them to find spots in the league, especially with most import slots taken up. But I think Inori, Palafox, and Diamond look of the caliber to move up. Obviously, Definitely and Matt were in LCS, but they would be, towards the lower end of bot lanes when you start ranking them up, right?
Yeah. I also think, uh, going back to your point of like, who can be pushed up and things like that, like, I don't know if Inori wants to move out of the C9 system just yet. Maybe he wants to stay there one more split and then see what his options are going into next year. Just because, like, he looks so good on C9 once he joins, like, something like CLG or, like, one of these other, like, dog teams. And then it's like, oh, shoot, it's not going so well. Oh, look, he was still washed up this whole time, Because,
That's the rough part, right?
yeah, it's just, like, you have to take this gamble. And then if it doesn't work out for you, it's going to be exactly what the community expected of you, which is unfortunate. But I think when you're a pro like Inori that has been in the scene before and now he's just coming back in, you kind of have to like take your gambles and just hopefully it works out for you, sort of thing.
And honestly, for the academy players, right now is your best chance to get on a team for summer because teams can't import at the moment.
True.
And some imports might want to go back home.
Hmm.
So it is very clear that now is the time for some of the top talent in North America to potentially look for a spot, especially with some teams underperforming so heavily. Um, a little like
Especially when summer there's so many playoff spots because of how they're doing at
yes, eight
Worlds.
playoff spots. That teams can have a chance to go to Worlds even if you place eighth. You
Hmm.
just have to get top three. So playoffs is the big push, right? And you just have to not be bottom two. That's not that bad, right?
Yeah, it's not the
Uh,
worst.
yeah, that's not the worst. So some teams might want to look at academy players, specifically CLG wants to look at academy players. Maybe IMT wants to look at Academy players. Maybe who was the other team that didn't make playoffs? It was not TL. It was IMT, CLG.
INT.
God, they're so irrelevant. I'm forgetting them. Dignitas.
Dig. Yeah, Dig.
Yes. Oh, Hooney. His contract
Hooney.
is like looking around like, hey, who wants to pay me $2 million? Like, come on, man. Honestly. Yeah. So like those three teams, obviously TL with the situation with Doublelift is probably bringing up tactical. That's the word on the street, according to Jacob Wolf. That tactical will be playing for Team Liquid. I don't think they can move any imports around, right? Because it's Core JJ and Broxa. It's not Jensen and Impact, right?
Yeah, because
otherwise
now they're NA.
Yeah. So not much for TL to do. CLG obviously looking for a complete roster revamp. They've said it. They want to switch as many players as possible. And I think Academy players, if you want to play in LCS, if you get an offer from CLG knocks, you're like, it is LCS. Right?
You will be playing on LCS, so there are more eyes on LCS and Academy. So
yeah, and some of the players could be clear upgrades, right?
If given the right shots.
Yeah, not flaming like the CLG players. Like in the past, they've been good, but obviously the split was very rough for them.
Mm-hmm.
So there are options, right?
Yeah, there are definitely options there.
So hopefully, maybe we see some NA talent in LCS next split. I would hope that possibly a top laner moves up to a certain team. That would be my hope. And moving on from that, we can talk about the LCS playoffs.
So, do you want to
crazy?
Do you want to still talk about like each set, or do you just want to talk about teams?
I think we can talk about obviously the Fly Golden Guardian set, one-sided in the losers bracket. FlyQuest stomped them.
Yep.
Awful. Obviously the Cloud9 100 Thieves set, awful. Got stomped. Right. We can skip over those two.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, there was one team that was clearly better, and they just got shit on. I will say props to Golden Guardians for making it to playoffs. Good success for the org, especially with the roster they had coming in. Even though management question mark pings on the Keith play, gotta say. Aside from that, they made it to playoffs, so that's an achievement in its own. I didn't expect them to move on. 100 Thieves though, rough. Gotta say, getting O2'd
in series.
Getting O2'd in the playoffs. Beat by Cloud9 and then having to play TSM.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, close set.
Yeah, super close for TSM.
Super close. Also, TSM question mark ping on the fucking
run back.
Salty run back. Like, I don't know what the fuck the coaching staff is thinking. You barely win the first game. Why are you inting the second time?
Yeah, I think the 100 Thieves TSM set was pretty indicative that, like, all right, if you're going to get washed by C9, right, 100 Thieves, and then you go into the TSM set, and then it's a super close series when TSM were, like, looking to be the ones to, potentially contest Cloud9, that's not good, obviously. But, the set as a whole, I think them doing the whole salty run back was pretty funny. And then losing the second time, obviously it wasn't draft diff after all. It was actually just like TSM got a early play top, and then they lost because of that. For the most part, because Someday couldn't play his champion, or topside in general just couldn't do anything, and Broken Blade was just able to do whatever the hell he wanted. But I think 100 Thieves shouldn't look at the O2 sort of like playoffs as like a complete bad thing. Like, obviously, like, they wanted it to like win the whole thing, but like they had a pretty close set with TSM, and I think that if they want to look for upgrades, definitely I think people are gonna obviously say mid, maybe support. I'm not sure, because I know Cody Sun and Stunt, they have a lot of arguments and disagreements when it comes to playing bottom lane, but I think that is just natural for the role. Like ADs have their view on the lane this way, supports have their view on the way the other way. But yeah, I just think that this set, like TSM, like when they were winning the games, like they were 100% on point and they knew what they wanted it to do. But the games that they lost, they were definitely all over the place and they weren't very cohesive. And
Yeah.
they weren't very like clear and all together when they wanted to like win. And the only time they were able to like be all on the same page was that one C9 win. So, and then after that they were losing to fucking CLG and all of these other random ass teams. So
TL. Yeah. Yeah. I had to say, for this series, I am surprised that 100 Thieves did so well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's weird to say because they got O2'd, right? But when you think about the players on the team, looking from the beginning of the split, we thought it could turn out people were optimistic how good it could be with Sunday, Meteos, and Cody. Meteos didn't have the best split, unfortunately. He had some weaknesses. But then you think about who his mid laner is for things like mid prio and invading. It gets tough when your mid laner's losing lane consistently. That's where, you can say, like, oh, if I had a better mid laner, Meteos would have had a better split. Because it is a team game, right? Not to say Ryoma played bad.
He's only been on the up since he got into the LCS. But
yes, he's only gone up.
He's still not
improved
where the rest of the league is.
And that's the thing that it also limited 100 Thieves drafting so hard because you have to pick him something that has priority in lane inherently. So Syndra, right? But then you watch the Cloud9 set and they just play Zoe into it. It's a skill matchup. He's not gonna beat Niski. He gets clapped 3 games in a row, right? It happens. And that's where the difference in a mid laner could come in and help 100 Thieves. You see it in the TSM set where he's playing Syndra, but he can't out pressure Bjergsen in some of the games. So that's like the same idea that where if you had a mid laner who can play other skill matchups and like take those matchups, you can open up your draft more. That's where I really hated 100 Thieves for the most part in the series is that their draft was very, how do I say, one
dimensional.
One dimensional. Very very obvious what they were gonna pick, and they weren't gonna put Sunday on Ornn. You knew it. Cloud9 knew it. They drafted around it. They're like, yeah, let's leave Ornn up for you on blue side. First pick this shit. We dare you, and they don't, and they get clapped right by Ornn. It's the same thing. You give up Ornn Aphelios. So that's just the issues I think for 100 Thieves. And the thing is, upgrades for mid are slim at the moment. It's only really Demonte or...
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ornn upgrades. A Kappa.
Oh, sorry. Fucking kicked up.
Oh yeah, but for 100 Thieves to like get mid lane upgrades for players, Demonte is definitely on the board. Palafox is definitely on the board.
On the board, right? Tough to find an import though, right?
Yeah, there's no way you're getting an import now.
Yeah, there's no way you're getting an import. But say here's the thing with 100 Thieves management, right? Papa Smithy, clear that I think this 100 Thieves roster is pretty budget, right? Because you have Ryoma from OS, who's probably not getting paid a lot, and then you have Stunt from Academy, who's probably not getting paid a lot. You have 3 pretty big names that are probably taking up a lot of your salary. And they could still get a better roster with similar pay. If you swapped, say, Ryoma for maybe Palafox, hypothetically, and then you got maybe Treats, who is an import, but a very good support in Academy. Something you can do. Diamond, also in Academy. So there are moves available for them to upgrade. I don't think they'll make a change though. I think they're content. I think their goal is to make the world championship, but I think they showed enough improvement over the split that they think they can keep going.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. But at a certain point, a player can only improve so much. So hopefully Ryoma does have more room to improve, and Papa Smithy does believe in him like that. Because if not, it's obviously not going to be good if they're like the 9th place team and they can't make playoffs sort of thing. Because I feel like most of the E teams should be making moves. We don't know yet, other than obviously the Doublelift situation. But it would just seem weird that like we would go into summer and every single roster is the same. It's like, are we just going to run this back? Like, this shit seems fucking troll.
Yeah, especially for some teams who overpaid for players.
True.
Like, severely overpaid. So that's my thing. Yeah. So, ending on 100 Thieves, they can make upgrades. Theoretical upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, honestly, it'll be rough for them if the teams above them make some changes that benefit them. So one change we can go into, obviously, that we saw this playoffs was Solo coming in for Viper.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in the first EG FlyQuest series. Viper played the first 2 games. FlyQuest go down 0-2. Solo subs in. Fly win the 3rd game. Unfortunately, lose the 4th game. But it was super close. Could have gone either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, FlyQuest were hesitant to make the call to make a swap. But once they like jumped into it, it really paid off for them.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the first EG Fly set was largely due to top lane, I have to say.
Yeah.
Viper was not having a good series. And
He's not having a good time.
It's not good that you're not having a good series into Kumo.
Yeah, it's Kumo.
That's rough. Yeah, it's Kumo. Unfortunately, I don't want to hate on Kumo, right? He improved a lot in the second half of the split, so I'm not going to hate on him. But he is the weak link on the roster. Jizuke Bang, clearly the Jizuke Bang and Svenskeren clearly the carries of the team. And Zeyzal and Kumo play a more supportive role. Kumo obviously on weak side, on set a lot, on Ornn a lot, sometimes on Aatrox when he gets to. But that's basically all he plays. His Jace was pretty bad, gotta say, unfortunately. For this first set, at least. But I mean, obviously EG won this first set. And FlyQuest, with the upgrade, got a lot better.
Yeah, and they were able to take down TSM, which, TSM in the 100 Thieves series, like we said, they were very like shaky and very iffy. So going into this set, I was like, I'm not sure if they could pull it off, but they did bring it all to 5 games again. So that was very exciting. But I think the Game 5 draft was very fucking troll, in my opinion.
Before we get to the Game 5 draft, I think, again, another salty run back.
Yeah, they did it again, Game 1 and 2.
Yeah, Game 1 and 2. And I have to say, if you already happened to you the first time and you barely won, and it was so odd too, because in the TSM, I'm going to reference TSM Legends. In the TSM Legends interview, Bjergsen someone says, wow, it took like 3 Barons and an Elder Drake and we still barely won. Wow. And then you go into the next game and you draft the same thing. What was where was the coaching staff saying like, wow, we barely won that game because we got so many OP objectives? Like, how does that not cross anyone's mind when you're drafting the next game?
The first game, they went through a backdoor. So,
yeah.
Like, it wasn't even in, like, they won a fight and then they, like, ran it down mid. Like,
they were losing the fight.
Of waves. Yeah. They were straight up losing fights at a certain point, and it was, like, pretty bad.
So, and, I expect the players to recognize this in the game. Like, we're barely winning these fights, blah, blah, blah. We probably shouldn't win this game. They pull it out, and then the next game, they run it back, and they lose way badly. Like, hard. FlyQuest doesn't fall so far behind like they did in the first game. and then they steamrolled them 30-something minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy, right? So obviously, and then the set goes into best of 3. And the third game, FlyQuest win, because TSM again played red side. They didn't switch to blue side. And they got shit on in the draft, right? I think the draft was, fairly similar. There were some small changes, not enough to matter, and they were still lost the match. And obviously, coming in game 4, because loser picks in the new playoff format, loser picks your side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they switch over to blue side. And I think you probably want to talk about this game 4 fucking draft.
So game 4, they're like, hey, Dardoch knows how to play these early game champions, like Rek'Sai, Elise, so oh look, they locked in Aatrox. Okay, we'll just pick Renekton and Elise. Have fun top. And guess what happened? Fucking Solo died like 0-3, and I was like, all right, cool, the game's over. like this iteration of TSM is 100% top focused, top mid focused, I would say. Like, they don't play around bot at all. I don't think there was ever a game where it was like Kabi and Biofrost won early, and then they like transitioned that into like mid game fights. Like, they kind of just like held their own, and then they just like team fought well. And in game 4, they had the Zyra Khan, which is obviously like very good team fighting.
And lane 2.
That too. It was pretty solid lane, especially into Kalista Blitzcrank, which I think Blitzcrank is kind of troll for this bot lane matchup. But anyways, but yeah, like they literally had like 0 prio top side, and like Bjergsen was just like, all right, I'm gonna go top again, and we're just gonna dive him and kill him, and then dive him and kill him, and then Solo was just like, I guess I can't do anything. So yeah, it was definitely like a really like good game from TSM, and I think that this was literally game 4. So like you guys should like take note of that, and like they won like pretty fast as well. Like they did not like wait at all.
Minutes.
Like a 24-minute win. That is unheard of, especially for this series, because most of the games went pretty late. They won the game in 24 minutes. Most of the games
went 35 plus.
Yeah.
2 of them went 45 plus.
So the fact that they like finished this game so fast that they should have been like, maybe we should maybe try that again. Nah, fuck it. Let's just pick Sedge. I'm not sure whose decision that was. I'm not sure if Dardoch said it. I'm not sure if the coaching staff was like, you know what, maybe Sedge here is good. I'm not sure exactly what happened, obviously. But I think the decision to pick Sejuani when Olaf is open is fucking troll. Because that matchup is not good. Because Olaf's just going to run over early.
And the draft bothered me for a number of reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I get that Ignar is a good Rakan player, right? But I don't think Ignar's Rakan was the reason they were winning the games.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was playing it, right? Like, he's playing it. He's doing well on it. But to me, like, the reason they were losing games is because they didn't have any... They didn't have any pressure in the top side, and they were kind of, like, going even in the mid lane. You saw Zillion versus Azir. You saw Victor versus Orianna. Like, these matchups aren't matchups where you can get leads. They're just very even. But when you see in the game 4, they take a volatile matchup, right? They take Sylas into LeBlanc. That's a counter pick. That's a winning lane, right? And then you have a winning bot lane, or at least even, and then you have a winning top side. It's like, wow, they played 3 winning lanes and they won. Incredible. And then in the next game they play 3 losing lanes. And they lose. With Sejuani.
It just seems really odd that they would do that.
And I don't understand, like, if you don't ban, like, they give up the set, right? You ban the set, the entire set. Jesus. You ban set the entire series and you let it through in the 5th game, they pick it, you get smashed. What did you expect?
Yeah. I'm not sure who was drafting or, like, whose decision was that. Because... I believe it was, what's it called? The Nines episode with Sven and Niski. They said that, like, drafting isn't all on the coach. It's like players' input too. Because, Reaper would ask, hey, Sven, can you play this here? He's like, no, it's just dog shit. I'll play this, this, and this. And that's just how it goes, I think, with most teams.
I understand, right? But when you think of someone I think it's specific to Dardoch where it could be challenging for someone with his kind of rep to say no, I'm not playing Sejuani, because that could be interpreted a number of ways to a
As
coach.
like toxic.
Yeah, he's being uncooperative. He doesn't want to follow the game plan. Blah 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 blah. Right. So you're like, okay, I'll play the Sedge coach. You want me to play it? He goes on stage. He plays it. He gets shit on because he's into Olaf. And then he walks out. He gets on Discord. He goes, Reggie, man, the coach told me to play a Sedge, man. Like, this is what I had to do. The coach is like, and then Reggie looks at the coach like, why'd you pick Sedge here? You have 3 losing lanes. And the coach is like, Sedge is good. Keck W. and that's how it happens in real sports, I don't think you follow football, right?
Hell no.
No. So in football, the coaches call the plays. They tell your quarterback what play to run, right? And the quarterback typically listens, right? He says, "Look, I'll do your play. We'll run it. We'll see how it goes. Oh, it failed? When the season ends and you went like 5-10 or some shit like that, right? The owner's going to be like, "What went wrong?" And the player's going to be like, "I just did what the coach said." It's not the player's fault. That's the coach.
True.
Because the coach is making the decisions and the player is just following through, right? That's what I think is going on. Where it's like Dardoch's like, I'll listen to my coach. I'll play this champion. I know he doesn't like playing Sejuani. So
I mean, it's
clearly
literally his worst like win rate champion in his LCS career. So.
Exactly. So, it's clear that whoever was drafting didn't understand or they understood the capabilities of the players.
They understood that FlyQuest PayPal'd him, and he was like, "I bet, say no more."
Oh my god. Peter Zhang was like, "Hey, I'm gonna need that check." Dardoch on
like,
Sedge.
"Oh shit,
boom,
the PayPal went through." I bet. All right, guys, we're gonna draft Sejuani here, so lock it in.
And honestly, I think if Dardoch, and I think the draft was pretty unsavable at a certain point when they kind of let Power of Evil get a Zier, and then they didn't have a good counter pick into it. You know what would have been great? Kassadin. You know who Azir can't beat? Kassadin. Crazy, right?
Wow.
Who would have thought?
Champion knowledge.
We just saw that.
Wow.
Huh. Right? And I think if you... And I'm not going to say, like, Kassadin's, like, the secret answer, fucking... Right? Because, obviously, this is kind of a tough team comp to play it into. Not going to lie. Varus is pretty tough because he can just ult you. Also, but he's immobile, so he could just die.
Yeah. If
but
ulti,
there's a lot of
Onions,
things...
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things, like, that TSM didn't play that other teams were playing that made them unable to win. And we'll talk about the roster swap later. Think we've said enough about TSM. Think their drafting was the biggest issue. Their identity was a big issue.
Yeah, they didn't have a clear play style, and then they were just inconsistent about what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, sucks, but we'll just move on. Because EG Fly, they ran it back.
Well, we're missing Cloud9 EG.
Well, Cloud9 EG.
Well,
EG did win a game.
They won a game. We can go over that they won a game, right? If we want to take a look at that specific game. Let me...
that was game 3, right?
Game 3, yes.
Where they had the Aphelios and they just let Bang 1v9. So
oh, yeah. This was the Aphelios game. Bang didn't get Aphelios any other game.
Yeah, because they were like, he's actually insane on this champion, so let's just fucking not.
But then there was also the Poppy counter pick on Aatrox, which is good. And I'm gonna say, Cloud9's draft, kind of weird. They played Pantheon Talia, so they were expecting.
They were
to
game
win
point.
that.
They were like, let's try something spicy. Oh shit! Whoops.
Yeah, they tried an early game comp and then they got slapped. I'm not gonna say it's not wrong. Blabber had a tough game on Pantheon. But I think that the draft for EG this game was fairly solid. Honestly, UNO would have been great into Tom Kench with Aphelios.
Wow, a mage support. Wow. Bro.
You know
pair him with
great?
Nami.
Imagine he had Lulu.
Oh my
You've
god.
seen Lulu Aphelios in solo queue. That shit is fucking gross.
I love playing Lulu Nami because he autos roots and then I get the easy bubble. So
Right?
that shit's
Crazy.
free.
Like, honestly, crazy. Who would have thought that would have been good into Tom Kench, right?
Yeah. But the way that C9 draft, like, they are very smart about drafting Tom Kench. Like, they, they knew that, like, Zazel's not going to pull out a fucking mage support. So they were like, all right, they picked Aphelios
He's
first.
notoriously bad at it, honestly.
They were like, all right, he picked Aphelios. We'll just pick Tom Kench away to make sure that he doesn't have Tom Kench Aphelios because that's really dumb. So then they got the next best thing, which was Braum. And they were like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think C9 are very smart about like how they draft Tom Kench in particular. Despite Vulcan being like a very good Tom Kench player, like you can't just like blind that shit and then just like win because I think that was evident in the final match where like Blitzcrank was in the game.
Yeah. I mean, well, talking about Braum, though, funny that like TSM didn't play Braum at all. They just kept picking Nautilus.
They just kept picking Nautilus. I guess
I
either
guess they thought it was better, right?
Bio said something or like the coaching staff were just like, he's better. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I think Braum's definitely
I think it's a worse
better in
laner,
some
but
of
it
those
probably
games.
would have been better with Aphelios, is my
Yeah, 100%. Because I think Nautilus is good for the all-in, right? But after he uses all of his cooldowns, what the fuck is he going to do? At least with Braum, like, his cooldowns, they're obviously all very important. But at least he could still auto the guy in front of him and still be useful.
Yeah.
Like, Nautilus does the same thing, but it's a root, it's not a stun. So, and stuns are 100% better when it comes to CC. So,
Yeah, of course. But again, tangent, TSM, whatever. But Cloud9, in the last game they whip out, the the Rumble into Echo, and it's like, hey, he died, he got solo killed. But after that, like, there's no impact. Sven and Vulcan are like putting on a clinic bot lane. Vulcan keeps pulling fucking Bang and Zazel when Zazel's trying to eat Bang. Like, honestly, the best thing about the EG Cloud9 was like Kumo had a really good counter pick into Aatrox, and Licorice looked pretty like non-existent in the last two games. But obviously the difference and it's weird because Bang and Zazel kind of beat up on Sven and Vulcan in the third game, but then obviously it gets hard reversed in the last game. Like, they get really stomped on. And I think that's where the matchups like come in. Like, Bang and Zazel aren't the worst. Like, they could beat them, but they have to have a good matchup. And that's where
the right champions.
Yeah, they need the right champions, and that's where and it's weird because good AD carries, they always fall back to Ashe for some reason. Like, Doublelift fell back to Ashe, Bang fell back to Ashe. It was just weird to me that they both fell back to Ashe when it's not really getting played much elsewhere. Neither of them really wanted to play Misfortune, understandably. I guess they don't like the play style. But I think Misfortune could have been good in some of these drafts, right? If you take Misfortune Nautilus or Misfortune Leona, I think that those are stronger lanes than, say, Ashe Tom Kench.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I guess they just wanted like another initiation tool because with MF you don't have that. So,
but I mean, if you take MF Nautilus, you have an initiation tool.
MF Nautilus, yeah, maybe. I guess this is again with like NA teams, like they were just over prioritizing the Tom Kench for whatever reason because they think the champion's broken when it's been nerfed too many times that I just think the champion's just not as good.
Yeah, and obviously we saw in EU how it's not.
Yeah, when you could just pick enchanters and just fucking run them over. So.
When you have the skill to pick an enchanter, and like, I think people meme on enchanters as being like kind of easy.
They're not.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to play them.
Well.
Yeah, your positioning is really important. And I think we talked about this earlier, but when you can herder fucking Leona Nautilus with, Aftershock and Stoneplay, it's very different than playing like Janna and being like, I gotta throw my abilities out in this bush, then I gotta ward it, then I have to juke because if I get hit by a skill shot, I'm probably dead, right? And I think we'll touch more on it later. What I was gonna say. Moving on to the next set is EG Fly, the run back, and clearly Fly had the upper hand playing all
Yeah.
4 games with solo this time.
Mm-hmm.
They went up 2-0 versus FlyQuest. Versus EG. The drafts were a bit gotta say, from EG, putting Jizuke on Zillion in the first game, question mark. Gotta say,
And then that
putting
TP bottom
Jizuke on
lane,
Zoe,
questionable.
question mark. Oh god, I almost forgot about that. They literally threw the whole game right there.
Yeah, they literally threw the whole game at pot, and I was like, "What the fuck was that TP,
Yeah,
bro?"
yeah, and then in the second game, like the game was over like 10 minutes in. It's like, oh, they got a lead. It's over. The fucking Kindred pick did nothing. And the Zoe is not a Jizuke kind of champion, right? Um, and I think when Jizuke's champion pool gets like kind of hit on, it's tough for him to make something happen.
Mhm.
LeBlanc is a great blind pick mid laner. If it's gone, you can't. It's tough to blind pick. You have to counter pick. And so I think FlyQuest was very prepared to play against EG this time.
Yeah, they were
They
definitely
they
a lot
very
more
much knew.
prepared, and also they were playing with solo, so they probably found out how they wanted to play the game more. Um, but yeah, I just think that EG were just they were like trying new things in like a playoffs match for some reason, or like trying these things that like they thought would work, but just end up not working. Um, but yeah, I don't know, just like very questionable picks, and I think the Kalista Taric, I don't know why teams keep doing this. Like TSM is notorious for doing this as well, where they have Kalista Taric, right? And then they keep wanting to go in with it. And I'm like, that's not what it's supposed to do. You kind of just like sit back and let them play into you with the Kalista Taric, because you're just invulnerable and you just kind of. It just seems
Yeah.
really weird that people are just like, go in, go in, go, 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 go. It's
Well,
like, why?
yeah, the drafts. I can see what EG was looking for in the first game. Like, fucking Ornn upgrades a Graves item. Tarek ults the Graves. Zillion boosts Graves up. Graves walks in and fucking one shots their whole team. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea. But it didn't happen because the players can't play that kind of like Jizuke is not a Zillion player, right?
He's not.
He's not. So that didn't work out, right? So you switch to something else in the next game. But it's the same kind of style. You have Kindred. You're trying to get Svenskeren ahead. You're trying to play around him. You know who probably would have played better with Svenskeren? Niski right here. Because Niski would be like, I'm going to move around, make sure the Kindred is winning so we can win this game, right? Because Kindred's going to outscale the fucking Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that didn't happen. You don't see Jizuke moving with Svenskeren. Svenskeren comes to Jizuke's lane to make something happen. But nothing's happening because it's Zoe versus Orianna.
Yep.
So what's the game plan there, right? Tough one. The next game, obviously they win, right? They have the Gragas, Azir, and then they have Aphelios and Tahm Kench. And this is obviously where, Bang gets Aphelios and shits on them. Because Bang's a great fucking Aphelios player. Honestly,
Yeah.
the best. Probably up there with Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Probably better than Johnson. Johnson's probably right below him on Aphelios, right? So that's like, you don't give those guys Aphelios because they can fucking carry games on that, right? That's the hard carry AD right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like probably the main reason they won. Also, they had Azir, and Azir was able to, it's Azir versus Corki. It's like Pepega.
Yeah.
You kick W, and hey, what is it? Resident Sleeper? You fucking fall asleep. You wake up like, who had more kills?
All right, who has more items? All right, I
Yeah, there you go. There you go. One, right. So.
But game 3, I don't know why Ignar keeps pulling out the pike. It seems really bad.
You think so? I think it's kind of a good counter into Tahm Kench. You could do something right.
I mean, yeah, but why would you do that when you could just? I guess Blitzcrank was banned.
It was banned, yeah.
So I guess that's just the second opportunity. Or
Did they first pick Tahm Kench on blue side? Please tell me they didn't.
Pretty sure they did something else. They might have first picked Aphelios.
Yeah, that's probably what they did. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was gonna say like
they first picked
banned
Aphelios, and then they countered it with Kalista, and then they were like, all right, I guess we could just get the free Tahm Kench here, and then they didn't pick the Blitz. Actually, they couldn't pick the Blitzcrank because it was banned the first phase. Yeah. So they just picked Corki, and then they were like, all right, They just banned some other champions, and then they like last pick Pike, and I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
I feel like when you're last picking support, you literally see everyone. You see every single champion, and you could best pick what was good here. But obviously, they didn't know that like enchanters are good into Tahm Kench for whatever reason, so they just opted into
also,
Pike.
Enchanters with Callista isn't the best either.
Are you sure? I think
Maybe
like
with,
Lulu's.
Oh, you know what? Lulu Janna would be pretty insane.
I mean, like because like the Lulu
You
can
just save
save
them,
the
right?
Callista, and then Callista can save the Lulu.
Yeah, you know
which
what?
is why
I think about it more.
Which is why in season the
5.
Arden meta,
Or
whatever,
season 7.
the Arden meta, like Callista was banned every game. You know why? Because you put a Callista in, and then you pick any Enchanter support, and then you can't touch her because she's getting sped up by like Lulu or Karma, and then she also has Ardent, which she's attacking faster and she's moving faster. So that's exactly why she was like perma banned during that meta, because Callista was just straight up broken. And if you didn't ban her, it's gonna be over.
Honestly, I completely forgot Callista was a champion in season 7 because she was perma banned. I was like,
yeah,
man, Callista hasn't been meta since like season 5. I was like, oh shit, she was 100% banned in the fucking at the World Championship. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, because literally, if you
literally
let her through,
not a single game.
It's actually over. So
not a single game. Yeah. You're right. But they can't play it. Ignar is not a fucking Enchanter support player.
Yeah, he's definitely a playmaker.
He is the Pike Blitz Rakan guy. He's the Pike Blitz Rakan guy. You know, that's what he's gonna pick. They got him on Braum in the last game. And Wild Turtle looked good on Aphelios. They were basically like, all right, Ignar, I'm sorry, man. Here you go. You're fucking You're guarding this for Pega.
I'm guarding you this game. I got
you. Wild Turtle did not have the best split. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, EG, surprisingly, after the start, they made it to 3rd place. Solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tough for them to make changes to the team. Again, unless, they already have import slot filled up. They can't really make many changes. Maybe they could improve even more. But that's tough with, Kumo being top lane. Maybe he can improve because it's his rookie split. Could happen. But aside from that, I see them max being 3rd.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think EG definitely surprised everyone with how they ended. Yeah.
And obviously, moving on to the finals, right? Which was
Rio.
I honestly thought FlyQuest could take some games. And
yeah, I thought they could at least take one.
The first game was close. I've got to say the first game was close. I think what was interesting to me is that essentially FlyQuest said, we're not going to play around Wild Turtle. Because they didn't take, a Braum here. I think Braum into, Kindred, Veigar, Misfortune is really fucking good because you can block
a lot of things.
You can block MF. You can block Kindred.
Veigar if you time it right.
You can do all these things, but they're like, Ignar's our playmaker. Wild Turtle's not our best carry. He's our weak side player. Let's play, and Ignar needed to land hooks to win the game, and he was landing them at the start, right? But then at some point, Cloud9 just kind of turned it on.
Cloud9 outscaling. Blitzcrank's not the best scaler. So.
Exactly, right? And I think that's the thing with the team is that essentially they said we can't rely on only Power Vivo in the late game. And Wild Turtle's an inconsistent carry later and it kind of showed he got caught out. His team fighting was kind of like out of position a couple times. I know it's tough into set. Like I saw one time Orange just got ulted into him and he was just like, fuck, I guess I have to flash and I can't do anything, right? That's the fucking set matchup. That's, unfortunate. Obviously, FlyQuest, gambled. Maybe they won't first pick set. Maybe they first pick Aphelios or Ornn. They didn't get it. It sucks. But then to do it again in the next game, and they played Alistair,
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ignar's champ pool is definitely in question. Like Ignar, like he's obviously like a good like playmaking support, but like you need to learn how to be a good support player. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you mean, and the thing is, when you sign Ignar, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, that is 100% true because he's not gonna play these like he's not gonna be on Braum duty. He's not gonna be on like
Enchanters.
Lulu Jana. Yeah,
Yeah, even during season 7, when he made it to the quarterfinals with Misfits, he wasn't fucking playing Enchanters. He
yeah, he
played
was the
fucking
Blitzcrank player.
Leona. He played Leona and Blitzcrank. That's what he was
Oh
famous
yeah,
for.
yeah, yeah. He
So
definitely pulled out the Leona with fervor
fervor.
battle or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
right? Yeah, like that shit. That shit was nutty. I was like, what the fuck, bro? He's doing so much damage.
Freaking 5 head, dude. Five
Yeah,
head before 5 head was a thing.
he actually like labbed that shit out. He was like, wait, this shit's good. And then it
Yeah,
was. I think they banned it against Misfits every single time after
they
that
did. They
or
banned
something like
Blitzcranks
that.
and Leona.
Yeah, because they were like, we're not playing this, so
Yeah.
get out.
So obviously Ignar isn't gonna play fucking Janna or something like this, right? Like where G2 would do that for Caps because it's like
We got to make
it
sure
would,
he can live.
no, it was funny because Sven said like, oh, Perks messaged me and said like, oh, we have to pick Enchanter Supports for Caps so he doesn't in.
Yeah, so he
so
doesn't
so
look
we
like
don't get
craps.
craps. Yeah. And I thought that was
It's pretty
so
true.
funny. And I think maybe if you did the same thing for Wild Turtle, the series might look a little different.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. I just think
maybe
that
that first game goes the other way.
on
Tough though.
Fly's team, like when you look at it, like all right, Solo's probably gonna ask for like a lot of pressure, and Power of Evil is 100% their carry, and then it's like all right, we kind of have to sack one side, so they're gonna sack bot, and Ignar also sack bot because he's literally just running around everywhere. So I think it's not Wild Turtle's fault inherently that he's playing poorly. It's just that that's just how the team is, and that's just
Yeah,
how they wanted to
but
play.
I mean, I I think it's different because you can't play strong, like you can't play strong side top lane when you have Ornn.
That is also true.
So that's my point. Is like they played Ornn for solo 3 games in a row. So then at that point you need to say, okay, solo's our weak side. Wild Turtle is our strong side. But
Yeah.
they can't play it like that. They can't do it.
Hmm.
Wild Turtle is a good AD carry. Obviously, he made it to the finals, but this was a fairly weak split for him. I think most people would agree. It's pretty low on where he usually is.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I'm not sure what it is though. Like I don't think it's maybe because he's getting old. I think he just had like a like kind of a
I just
little
think he had an unlucky series. I think that this was just a
yeah.
very uncharacteristic series for him. But also, C9 were just playing super duper well. Like game two, they
Obviously.
pulled out the super big dick comp. They pulled out Callista Thresh bottom, and then they had the Gragas Yasuo for mid,
Hmm.
and then just set top. So like their team fighting is honestly pretty insane.
Oh
So
yeah, especially into immobile carries with no protection.
yeah, like I don't even think that like they could win a team fight
No,
with this
no.
comp. Like
This game
even
two
if
was
they
awful.
were ahead, like I just have too many tools to like just win a fight. So
Yeah, this game two is awful. Honestly,
yeah.
it's the same kind of thing that EG was trying. Like, oh, let's get the fucking Yasuo. If it gets ahead, we can win. But when it's behind, it's dog shit. Good thing it didn't
Hmm.
fall behind, right? Like,
Yeah.
then you could look at it differently. Like, oh, Rek'Sai, Syndra are fucking pounding this Yasuo or something, right? But that didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
and I gotta say, Cloud9 really dominant.
Super solid.
I well deserved.
100%, yeah.
I always think, that the best team wins, right? And Cloud9
Yeah.
clearly the
Especially
best
with the
team.
new format.
Yeah, yeah, especially. And it's funny because if this was our
The
old
old
format,
format.
yeah, then FlyQuest would have got eliminated by EG in the semis, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty important. I mean, we might have seen slightly different matchups. Like we might have seen Fly versus TSM and Hunted Thieves versus Golden Guardians. In like the quote unquote quarterfinals of like a different of the old format. But
Hmm.
honestly, I think FlyQuest definitely would not have made the finals if they had played um in the old format. So it's glad to see who the second best team was.
Yeah, clearly who the second
Clearly,
best team was.
because they made a losers bracket run, right? They beat Golden Guardians, they beat TSM, and then they ran back EG and they beat them. So totally deserved. And obviously, unfortunate Cloud9, we're not going to be able to see them internationally, especially with the news that MSI is likely canceled.
Yeah, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but it's
not confirmed.
Looking pretty grim.
Yeah,
looking pretty grim.
Pretty grim. Someone said like 2 weeks into summer, which would be like June. And I'm like,
yeah, nah,
that's not happening.
That's probably not happening.
Could be 8 weeks into summer, which would be like July, and then at that point, why you have Worlds in like 3 months?
I think, if they're not going to do MSI, they should at least, like, when Worlds comes around, they should try their best to make it work, because Worlds is going to be the one international event then, and then it should be, like, they should, like, figure shit out now.
Maybe they change the bracket. Maybe they change the format.
Yeah, maybe double LM, because I think
I think I would love to watch fucking...
I think double LM would be very important, because there's, like, no reason to not have double LM for a very important event.
It's going to be...
Since, they keep doing, like, the groups and things like that. It seems really weird that they haven't changed the format after all these years.
Yeah. I mean, Riot has said, like, that they don't want the most competitive format to see who's, like, top 8, who's the 1 through 8th best team in the world. They want, entertainment. And I had to say, groups is entertaining. It is entertaining to watch. Mm-hmm. I think, personally, and I'm a hardcore fan, I would prefer seeing best of 3s in the groups. Straight up. Like, you one best of 3 per team, right? It's the same thing, except you get a tiebreaker if you won one.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows who the best teams are then, right? Because I think...
Yeah.
If you look at some of the... How do I say? Some of the NA performances where certain teams didn't make it through, I think in a best of 3 scenario, they would have been more likely to get through. Against their competition. So
a better chance.
Much better chance. It's just basically like we will clearly see who are the better teams. Especially with a double limb bracket, I'm fairly certain Rocks Tigers would have clapped Samsung at 2016 Worlds if they got knocked to losers and they have to play Samsung, then we would get a rematch of Rocks versus SKT in the finals. Imagine how sick that would be. We saw that series live in semis in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think a Worlds format would be nice, especially since it's likely to be the only international competition this year.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about TSM Doublelift?
Yeah, pretty PogChamp, gotta say.
So it's been reported by Jacob Wolf that TSM Doublelift is probably gonna happen. But before then, it was announced that Doublelift's contract was up for trade. And I think a lot of people kind of predicted that he was going to go to TSM if this was the case, that it was going to get traded off, which it looks like it is. Because Jacob Wolf is a pretty, like, reputable source, and he wouldn't just report this for shits and giggles. Like,
he's fairly accurate.
Yeah, he is fairly accurate. So, my opinion on this is obviously, like, 2016, 2017 TSM, like, that was, like, a pretty hype roster. Svensk, Garen, Hanser, Bjergsen, Doublelift, Biofrost, and now that they have 3/5 of that, that's going to be pretty exciting. But I think there's a lot of conflict of interest, and I think Monte Cristo did a really good job on touching on this during the Nines episode with Sven and Niski. I'm not sure, like Riot definitely has to do a investigation on this, I would say, in terms of like if there were like reasons for like if Doublelift purposely was throwing on TL to like have his contract up for trade, things like that. I don't think so, because I don't think Doublelift's that kind of player, but who knows, especially since he is literally dating Lena. And yeah, it just seems like really weird that like this all like sort of like came together in a way, coincidentally. So I think that there definitely needs to be like more research done, like whatever happens, like if it is like sort of like collusion, like TSM should get fined.
Tampering would be the word.
Yeah, fined for like tampering or whatever, because like it is just not fair that that something like this would happen, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I don't think Double is the kind of player to throw games either. Um, I think where this split is very different than, say, another split for Doublelift, I think, is the PR side of things. Um, I'm certain Doublelift was probably like unmotivated in some splits where, he on TL where like he's already won two. Do I care about a third? Do I care about a fourth? That doesn't seem like a motivation thing. Like he probably wasn't motivated then either, and you could see in TL like they weren't super dominant, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
where it comes in that it's interesting is that he's so vocal now about the problems with the coaching staff and disagreements and kind of how the team is being run and how he's being coached, this kind of thing. That's where I'm like, he usually doesn't air dirty laundry during a split. He usually does it after.
Yeah.
And this time he was very vocal during the split, like, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really agree with my coaches. I think they're doing dumb shit. And to have to redo an interview because you flamed your coaches, um,
Yeah.
to flame them less is pretty weird.
Suspect.
Yeah, pretty suspect. And obviously I don't want to go out and say like I'm a very big fan of Doublelift. I don't want to say that he's doing this on purpose. Um, I think it's rough because he finds the same thing. When a Smithy got let go, he was very adamant that he was against the move because he saw what happened on TSM where you make a change because you want to perform internationally, and then the change doesn't work out. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something he's very against because clearly they had a winning formula, and they took for granted winning NA, as all owners do. They're like, I want to win worlds, but your team, you don't even know if your team is going to get
But
better
your
with
team has
this
to win
player.
an A first.
Yeah, your team has to win an A first, right? And you don't even know if your team's going to get better. And as well, like a lot of EU analysts said that Broxa was a problem on Fnatic, and that's why they weren't good. And obviously, Fnatic had a better split with Selfmade than Broxa had on TL.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances, and it does excite me to see Doublelift on TSM again
Yeah.
because I am a fan of both. But again, the coaching staff could be an issue, and I'm not entirely certain Doublelift
Yeah.
could fix all of their problems. He does bring a voice, and he brings a style. But obviously, I think the thing was for TSM is they didn't have
A strong voice.
They didn't
or
have
a strong idea of how they wanted to
yeah.
play the game.
And when you bring in Doublelift, you have an idea how you're gonna play the game. You're gonna play through the bot side, right? Dardoch's gonna play through the bot side. Dardoch has historically not been a good bot side jungler. On TL.
I mean, when you got fucking what's his name? When you got Matt and
Piglet.
fucking no, the guy that replaced him. And then he called him a D5 bot lane.
Fabi.
Fabi, yeah.
Yeah.
When you got Fabi and Matt, do you really want to play around them? I don't know.
Yeah, but
man.
then but in the split before, like they played a lot around Piglet, but he pushed Piglet away, right? Like he didn't want to play towards bot side. And obviously Dardoch has matured since then. Nobody's said anything about Dardoch's attitude this split. That's a good sign. But again, I think there are things you can point to on TSM where like, can Doublelift fix that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
there are definitely behind the scene issues. And also the coaching staff, I think, might need to be changed as well. I'm not sure where they would get a better coach. But I think when you bring in Doublelift, like he's obviously going to be a very strong voice on the team and like have a strong idea of how he wants to play the game. But I don't know if that'll solve TSM's problems that they had before, because it seemed like TSM's problems weren't bottom lane at all. It was more or less like team play and team communication.
I would say that. I'll continue.
So I'm not sure if like Kavi was like a part of why it wasn't working out, because I feel like that he's getting done dirty here, which I think a lot of people in the community can agree with.
I can agree he's getting done dirty. My problem with Kabe is that he is not lane dominant, and I think when you don't have a bot lane that can, win, it makes it really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we said earlier, their bot lane never really won big advantages, right? They even lost advantages in some games. So I think that's where the weakness of, like, say, Kabe is, where in team fights he's going to do well, but his early game is not spectacular. It's the same thing with Sven, right? Sven didn't have the best early game, and his team fighting was pretty good, but I feel like TSM basically said, bye Sven, here's other Sven. Like, what? Like, that's I don't know. And I think bringing in Doublelift will definitely change the style of the team to be like, where it might clash with how they've been playing topside, but clearly TSM didn't want to play the topside because they didn't keep doing it. So grabbing Doublelift is possibly a stylistic change they're looking to do, and that could give them a solid chance in the future. And I've got to say, Bjergsen Doublelift Biofrost is probably a really good bot side to have. And Broken Blade's not too shabby. He's a bad weak side player though, so could be rough.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
it depends
I'm
on
not
whether
sure.
Dodok has a good
Yeah,
split or not. It's
I
a big thing.
think. Yeah, I'm not sure because Spica's been playing with Bjergsen and solo queue, so I'm not sure if they're gonna change that up as well and have Dardock play for Academy now.
That
That
would
would
be
be really
rough.
weird, in my opinion. Yeah, that would be definitely rough. Um, but I don't think, like, from an outsider's perspective, in my opinion, I don't think Dardock was the problem. I just think that they were just playing like the wrong shit at certain times, and it was just not working out for them. So, whatever the TSM roster is gonna be, hopefully that they are able to do well again. If they can't even like make it to Worlds this time, like something has to be wrong with like Bjergsen's play or something like that, because Bjergsen has been the only constant here, like
Uh,
100%. So,
People people have said that Bjergsen's playstyle is a little outdated. Um,
mm-hmm.
and you can see it when other people are first to roam. Um, and I think it's kind of funny because even in like season 7 and season 6, not season 6 so much, but at season 7, people criticize Bjerg for not moving fast enough, and it seems years later
It's still happening.
it's still happening. So possibly something in his game that, and I think this is something that's hard with old school players, because back in the day, you didn't move off the wave because you lose too much on the wave.
Mm-hmm.
But
But now it's
now
like
it's
jungle
advanced.
pressure.
Yeah, it's advanced to, like, well, you have to move because this is how you win. Um,
Yeah, it's like
and
jungle
it's
pressure and side lane pressure. Like that's
hmm
more important than mid lane pressure now.
and it's Froggen is a player who plays the old style still. He can't make playoffs. Power of Evil plays that same kind of style, but has better
But he
teammates.
moves faster.
Yeah, and he's able to do it. So I think there are issues that they just need to fix, and it's clear that they're long-standing issues, and it might be tough.
Yeah,
Um,
because I know in the TSM Legends episode, like they had like different philosophies of how they wanted to draft and how they wanted to play, which I think might play into why they weren't playing like set or like flexing as many champions as they were before. Because remember, like Bjergsen played Ornn mid, fucking during the season, and like they were like flexing Pantheon and like flexing set and things like that. But like all of a sudden they weren't doing it anymore. It just seemed really weird to me because I was like, this seemed really good for them that they were able to like flex so many champions and champ select that the opponent just had to keep like guessing like where are they gonna go, like
yeah,
where is this champion gonna go, which is like super good for draft. But I guess like in TSM's like behind the scenes they were just like that's not good. It's like wait, why? It seems really off.
yeah. Um, Moving on from TSM, I think the last thing to touch on would be the culture of NA, where a lot of people have come out and said some interesting things about NA practice and how coaches work in NA and this kind of thing. Which
Hmm.
one do you want to touch on first?
I mean, we could either talk about the Doublelift LS, or we could talk about the Sven Niski thing. So I think we should talk about the Doublelift LS thing, because that stuff kind of just like came out naturally and was not really expected. They were kind of just like co-streaming the games, and then they just started talking about other bullshit. So it just seems really weird that like, you know, some NA teams, like, they're getting paid a salary to like play the game, right? And then they're like dodging games. They're just like trying to bait out picks and shit like that in scrims. And like scrims is where like you're supposed to like learn and like, you know, improve and things like that. Or like on the Nines episode where it was like, all right, they did like this shit invade and then they asked for a remake. It's like, but why? You knew that like you're taking this fight, so your risk is like inherently there, you know? So if you don't think you could play the game after that, like, that's just a bad attitude to have. And I think NA teams just need to toughen up and just be like, all right, we're going to be playing this team today. You know, they're better than us or whatever the case may be. You know, like, winning isn't everything. Winning in scrims means jack shit. Like, I think NA players and NA teams need to realize that, like, winning in scrims doesn't mean anything. So if you could just get good practice in and actually learn from like the losses, because losing is improving, and I think
it's
losing
losing
more than winning, I think, is a good thing to have, because I think the reason in why Cloud9 lost that game against TSM was because they kept winning, and then once they lost, they were like, all right, they lost once, but like they were able to learn from it, and I think if they didn't lose that game, they probably would have lost more games during the playoffs. In theory, sort of thing. Like, that's just my theory. But because they literally lost one game during the split, and because of that, they were able to learn and they were able to adapt, and like they got better. So I don't see why some of these NA teams and NA players are just like, you know, fucking open, or just like troll drafts or shit like that. Like, it just seems really weird, especially since like literally you're getting getting paid to play this video game. It literally just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, honestly, it's the same thing to me. And the things that really resonated with me, you know, Sven said a lot about how teams, you know, dodge and this kind of thing, right? But it also happened in EU. So I think it might be a team-specific thing where they're just not understanding that, like, it doesn't help you if you win this game by cheesing them. It's going to matter.
Are you actually going to
fucking better?
Yeah, are you actually going to do that on stage or what? Like, that
no, yeah, because you're not going to do that shit on stage, right? Like, how Amazing was on, I think, Summoning Insight earlier this year, and he was saying, and it was him and Prolly, I think, and they were saying, like, oh, yeah, people would take Hex Flash Elise every game, and they would flash level 1 Cocoon you, and then at level 2, they would take Hex Flash and sit in a bush and Hex Flash Cocoon you, and then, you know, you sit there in the scrim like, are you going to do this on stage? Because you haven't done it once yet. And they're like, nah, we're not going to do it on stage. So why the fuck are you practicing it? Right?
Yeah.
How does it help? It doesn't. Because you're not going to play like that on stage. So there's no point. And that's the thing that bothered me. The thing that bothered me most from the LS and Doublelift talk was how they agreed on a lot of points on how to play the game and how the game should work. And then, you know, in the first game for EG Fly, he's just like, yeah, FlyQuest is going to win because this is NA and EG's comp doesn't work here. And I'm just like, why is NA being NA change how that should work? I'm like, what the fuck? Doesn't the coaching staff or the players, right? It doesn't make any sense.
I think it definitely has to do with player attitude too, because Sven and Niski touched on like the solo queue, and like that really obviously resonated with me, because I'm like, solo queue's dog, but it's also because the pros aren't playing solo queue. Yeah. So the level of play in higher elo now is so much worse than it was before, because the pros aren't playing solo queue as much. And it's crazy to me that like Nemesis in EU, right? I think he has multiple accounts in like high elo, like Challenger. And like in NA, you have like very little players in Challenger.
So some players have like Smurfs in Challenger, right?
Yeah. It's
some
like,
of them,
you know,
but
like some of the players are actually like playing solo queue now. Like I think Bjergsen recently got back into higher elo, but before then, like he was literally stuck in like D1, and I was like, this is not good. Like, I think that players should definitely be like, despite the ping and like all of the random factors that play into solo queue, like I think that getting practice in other ways that isn't just scrims is good.
Yeah.
Because like all of G2, like I'm pretty sure everyone on G2 plays solo queue along with C9. So
C9 has some of the highest solo queue counts. I mean, Sven has like 1.2 KLP. Like, I mean, and Doublelift after fucking his whole fiasco, like with motivation, he's 1 KLP now, easy. He said, "Oh yeah, I could do this with my eyes closed, easy," because NA solo queue sucks. But maybe if Doublelift played in NA solo queue more, he'd get players would improve when they watch themselves play versus Doublelift. They're like, how can I improve? How can I get better? And you improve because and then obviously there's the prodigies like Johnson. Johnson should have been like
in LCS way before. But
I mean, this is his first year top. Honestly, it's the reason because he had like 4 accounts top 10, right? That's like people pay attention to when you get like that many in because they're like, who is this guy? How is he doing it? And then you get him in LCS and you see him play and you're like, this guy's better than half the fucking ADCs in the league, right? Yeah. And it's like, where was this guy? How do we make more of him? And Johnson's just like, I'm just a solo queue player. I just sat in solo queue and I tried my ass off, right?
Yeah.
So, he's one of the few, right? Like it's like Licorice, it's like Zazel, it's like Johnson, it's like Blabber. These are the few. That's like maybe 5 names, right? In LCK, in China, a whole team, 5 rookies, E-Star made the playoffs. They were like 9-0, 9-1. I mean, they lost in the playoffs. Preface, right? They lost in the playoffs, but that's 5 rookies first split make the playoffs. That doesn't happen in NA. You can't even get 5 rookies in a split.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture difference, 100%. Because like EU and China and LCK or whatever, like they're more willing to like, all right, who's this guy in solo queue? Like people in Challenger Elo in those regions probably have talked to teams already, and not like amateur teams, like actual teams, because
Grandmaster players talk to Challenger, like to talk to LCK teams.
Yeah,
talk to Chinese teams. So
because you never know like who can be the next Faker, who can be the next Teddy or whatever.
Chovy.
Like
Chovy literally, I think I've told you this before, but Chovy literally was a master tier cast or GM cast one trick. Now he's fucking top 2 LCK.
Yeah, it's like these players are there. It's just a matter of if NA is willing to scout them and actually take a risk on them. And I think it's because like these teams are just like not willing to like do it. Like Big, the support player, like Baby Eater, whatever, like that guy was literally chilling on like bottom teams for so long, and I was like, why is this guy still getting spots? Like this guy is honestly like really bad. Like he's kind of a thresh run trick, and then when he's on like other things, he does like but like he's never like performing like super hot.
Yeah, and I mean you can say like it's something. An example where it doesn't go right is like Stunt, who is like a solo queue stud, but in pro play, not the case. But
there has to be something.
But you have to develop that, right? This is Stunt's like second split. This is his first full split. He didn't even get a full split on Phoenix 1. He got replaced by Shady, like halfway through, and that was attitude issues at the time, possibly fixed now, right? So I don't want to like replace certain players like Stunt. Give him another split. Give him a year. Give him 2 years. See, not 2. Give him a year. I was gonna say 2, but then I've seen some players who've been in the league a little too long. But give a rookie a year, and see how they do. And right, like Licorice wasn't a stud in spring.
Oh yeah, bro. Licorice came in, he was straight up dog.
Yeah,
he was just inting.
Yeah.
But like,
and then Summer Reaper comes around.
Reaper knew. He was like, all right, you're not playing tanks. He was like, okay. because he knew what kind of player he was.
Yeah.
And Reaper played around that. And I think teams don't know that. They're like, all right, this is what's good, so you're going to play this. But it's like, but they're not good at that, so put them on what they're good at.
Same thing with FlyQuest, right? Like, the Ignar's
yeah,
not
I
good
mean,
at
like,
Enchanter,
you
so you
know,
put him on...
Ignar's been around for a while, though. I think it's just like by choice that he just doesn't want to play these other champions, which is kind of bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, we need more coaches, kind of, honestly,
We just need
like
coaches that
Reaper.
actually like
Coaches
know,
that are good. Yeah, like,
yeah,
that's it. And
because like Reaper knows like, all right, so this is a team-based game, so you're not good at this, right? Okay, so we're not gonna play that. So you play towards the players and not towards what's actually good, because when you do that, when you play towards what's good, and then your players are not good at that, oh look, we're losing. But when you play towards what they know and what they can play, wow, you're winning. Or you have a better chance of winning, sort of thing, you know?
yeah,
It just seems really weird that, like, you know, some of these NA teams are just like, we're going to pick up this player. It's like, why? We think they're good. It's like, okay, all right.
yeah. I mean,
Because, like, Keith row swap into support is just fucking troll, man. And I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, and so I think obviously rookies that come up in Europe, China, and Korea have an advantage of playing in better solo queue, so that handicaps NA talent. So it makes it harder. There's a bigger gap between solo queue and professional in NA than there is in other regions. But then that's when you need good coaches to develop those players, and
Yeah.
that's like the whole cycle is that we don't have coaches to develop players. Solo queue is
I
bad.
think
Those
I
players
think
can't
Doublelift
compete.
touched on this when
Yeah.
like Sona Tom or Sona Tarek were like super good. Like they weren't good at that at first, but you know, they played so much of it and they lost so many scrims because of it. I think teams and coaches just need to learn to go through growing pains as a team, because once you go through that and you're actually like, you know, good and you learn how to play as a team, then wow, we're winning games on this like broken shit that we weren't good at before,
Yep.
but now we're good at,
And
you know?
and the funny example is Ryoma, right? Like,
Yeah, like
I
they
think
could honestly give them another chance. Like I wouldn't mind that, but
yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
if they want to like actually compete and go to worlds, it's gonna be like super, super tough if like Ryoma does happen to peak. But that's just the risk that they have to take. They have to go through those growing pains as a team and be like, yo, Ryoma, like you need to like, you know, if he happens to be doing bad still, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. You need to learn X, Y, and Z champs. And I
Yeah,
think that's
the
a
thing.
big part of it. I think
Yeah.
champ pools and like what people are willing to play is pretty big.
Yeah, and maybe
Because
100 Thieves'
Licorice,
system is. Oh, sorry.
no, that's okay. Because Licorice, like we said earlier, Reaper said no tanks. Now he can play tanks. Wow. Okay, that's where you go through growing pains and things like that. But at first, when they brought him in, they were like, all right, you're not playing tanks because you're dog shit. So we're gonna put you on these champs, and that's fine. The team just has to play around it because it's a team game once again. So
Yeah, and you gotta play around your players, and then you need to develop your players and give them time. Like, and that's just how it is. I mean, Blabber was like a fucking hard coin flipper before. Now he's
and
like
now he's
90
like consistent.
10. Yeah, like 90 10. It's a pretty good coin, I gotta say. And it's the same thing for maybe Ryoma. It's the same thing for Stunt. Obviously, this is their first splits, full splits. So I think coming into summer, you see like, did this guy develop? Is he worth keeping around? Can he improve more? And if the answer is no, that's when you look somewhere else. The answer is yes, keep going. And that's how you develop good players. Because I think for too long, NA has kept the same old players with shitty attitudes and bad mentalities and no low worth ethic, and that's why we can't get better.
Yeah. Because in the Asian regions, they kind of just do what they say, what they're told, because it's a culture thing. So it's just how it is. it just sucks that like these players are just like dodging fucking scrims and saying open and fucking remake and all this other childish shit when they're literally like adults playing a game. Like, you're lucky to be in this position and you're acting like this. It just seems really bad.
Yeah. I think with that depressing note on NA culture.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else for us to say on this, honestly.
But long podcast episode. It's probably gonna be the last episode until summer starts up. Unless some news pops up in the off season.
Unless like every fucking team just changes their roster or something. Like, we're not gonna do another episode, but thank you guys for listening to this epised of the Open Mid Leaguecast, and we'll see you guys whenever the summer split starts. Probably a month.
Thanks for watching.